No, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. I love it. It's the end of the week. We got you all the way there. We're going to even get you to go home time, but I got a sound effect for that. Hit it, man. Friday. Yes, indeed. It is Friday. And welcome to it. And pushing buttons so ably on the board, that would be JP. Hey, man, how you?
I'm great. How about you?
I am good enough. How about that?
That's all we can ask for. Good enough to do a show.
Good enough to do a show. That's right. You used to say good enough for government work, but I don't want to say that anymore.
No, that doesn't mean anything.
No. All right. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you. So coming on, somebody who hadn't been on the show in a while, but she's been on several times in the past. Erica Thomas is one of the great reporters at 1819 News. She's a great person in general, but Erica Thomas is going to be on at the top of hour number 2. And that's going to be, I'll be honest with you, that's going to be a difficult segment. It's going to be tough because the story she's reporting on deals with some of the most heinous child abuse I think I have ever heard of. And I've heard about a lot because I used to work with abused kids. But we're going to talk with Erica Thomas about the story coming out of Bibb County, that she has been one of the ones to break that story. And so that's coming up at the beginning of hour number 2. And then you know the deal, it's Friday. So sooner or later, we got to pull back from all the news, all the politics, all the policy, and do a little JP on sports. Right now, that's scheduled for halfway through hour number 2. So JP on sports coming up later in the show. And then I still got a triple dipper. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate. Look, I'm just calling it Find the Children. We got to find them. So the Biden administration lost over 300,000 migrant children. I know they came here illegally, but they're still precious children. They're minors. And not only that, but how about the ones that are just, in general, being lost in the cracks of society right now? This is going to be a heavy topic. It's heavy for me because this is part of my heart, my passion. I worked with kids professionally for 10 years, many of whom were in a bad way. And I worked with some in a counseling environment. It was rough. But we're going to talk about it. Find the children. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, yeah. So every once in a while, like I always say, you got to stop and pause and look at what's going on around you, right? You got to make sense of the world in which you live. And that means we're going to do a segment we didn't get to yesterday, going to do it today. Home fries. Home fries is number 2 on the Triple Dipper, cooking up a batch of home fries. And then number 3, assuming I can get to it with all this content, number 3, I'm just calling it Makes Sense to Me. You know, Trump said that he was ushering in the era of common sense. Those were his words. The new era of common sense. And I love that. But what I'm also watching right now is the fact that some of what's being done, it truly is. You look at it and go, well, that's just common sense. Why was it anything but that? But they're having to do things different just to get back to common sense. So we're going to talk about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper, makes sense to me. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. And I'll just remind you guys that the Rightside Way is brought to you every single day by Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville, 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Stan McDonald is indeed your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way. And I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a minute. All right, so not so long ago, the world saw the most incredible display of first world jackassery that I've ever seen. First world, because the third world doesn't care about this stuff. Only the first world cares about things like transgenderism. The first world jackassery right there at the Supreme Court of the United States, one of the most respected and well-preserved bastions of the rule of law in the entire world. A place where allegedly legal jurisprudence is supposed to meet with common sense and render precedents that affect literally hundreds of millions of people, and even second and third order effects on billions of others around the world. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments by a woman pretending to be a man, arguing in favor of mutilating young children because they were supposedly born in the wrong bodies. Let all that sink in. A woman who believes she's a man stood in front of the bench in the highest court of our land and argued the finer points of law with those who were supposed to be the greatest legal minds in the nation. Y'all, we have slipped off into some kind of post-apocalyptic mayhem. The person I'm speaking of goes by the name of Chase Strangio. Chase Strangio, which sounds like a name right out of DC Comics' directory of supervillains. Strangio's mission in life is to argue that men can be women, even when they are mere children. Because yes, Strangio, if that is even her real name, notice I said her, believes adamantly in the idea of parents having no say in whether or not a child can switch their gender with the help of other adults who have no parental rights over the children. It's a sick and twisted philosophy straight from the gates of hell. Look, I've said it before, but in my opinion, there are some things for which a nation will be judged. There are some things that future generations will look back on and literally judge their ancestors on how they responded. We look back on things like the Salem witch trials now, right? And we're repulsed by it, but it happened. We look back on slavery now and we're repulsed by it, but it happened. We look back on the genocide of Jews and we're repulsed by it, but it happened. And I believe that how we as a modern generation act right now to care for and protect our kids, that is something that future generations will judge us for, because it's them judging us on how we raised them, how we protected them, how we cared for them. And in some ways, we've been failing our kids, failing them miserably. Reports are out that the Biden administration utterly unconscionably was indifferent to children throughout its administration. Particularly, you could consider the plight of 300,000 missing minors who came across our southern border during the great human wave of the Biden era. 300,000 plus children wandered, walked, and many times were trafficked right across our southern border. Some with no more than a phone number written on their arms or a little note in their little pockets. And during the Biden years, it was deemed acceptable to do what no one in the White House would have ever done to their own children. They simply called the number written on the child's arm and then turned these precious innocent children over to whoever showed up to claim them. But recent reports indicate that while some may still be with whoever took custody of them, that at least 58,000 are just gone. Like we don't know where they are, like no clue, in the wind. The government has no idea at all where 58,000 of them are located. No idea if they're healthy and loved or abused, trafficked, and forced into labor. Yesterday, it was reported that the Trump administration's efforts to locate these kids has so far resulted in locating 13,000 of them, and that's a great start, but there's so many more to go. In the process, ICE has actually arrested 422 of these so-called sponsors who they determined were actually abusing the children they were handed over to. Basically, the Biden administration opened up the Amazon of abuse for sick people to grab the kid of their choice and take them home, just like delivered them straight to their door. Well, yesterday also, Congress opened up special hearings on this most callous of all policies. The hearing itself was titled, quote, "Catch and Release, Lose and Forget, Addressing the Crisis of Unaccompanied Alien Children." Let that sink in. The Congressional Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement, chaired by Louisiana Republican Clay Higgins, held a hearing that was called Catch and Release, Lose and Forget, and it was about kids. In his remarks, Chairman Higgins emphasized that the Biden border crisis has enabled the trafficking and exploitation of vulnerable unaccompanied alien children. He cited a report by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General. And what the IG found was that DHS and the Department of Health and Human Services had failed over the past 4 years to properly safeguard children. He also said the findings are a double-edged sword, because while some vulnerable children have likely been trafficked, exploited, and subjected to forced labor, the report also found that there were older teens that were also convicted criminals and gang members. While the hardworking men and women of ICE may want to do their best, the sheer volume of the cases that the prior administration's open border policies dropped in on them just overwhelmed the entire system. But it's not too late to place emphasis on doing what's right, what's needed, what's mandatory, what is good and just for the most precious among us, our children. We can still pull this generation out of the crapper of history if we will just double down and fix what the progressive left has been doing. Nationwide, I think there's a renewed focus, an emphasis, if you will, on asserting that in America we value our children, and as such, we want what's best for them in every way. As conservatives, we want to know that our children are being taught the best possible levels of reading, writing, arithmetic, sciences, technology, history, and civics. In essence, when it comes to education, we want them to have a real education. We also want our kids to be safe, to feel valued, to have positive social interactions, to be given every opportunity to be protected from every vice. And we want to know that we can care for, love, and raise up our children in the way they should go so that when they grow older, they will not depart from it. But the progressive left, they just want our kids. They want them right there on the altar of their progressive left prurient ideologies. They don't care about kids. They only care about getting what they want from kids. And it's our job as this generation to say no. It's our job to put up the firewalls on computers, to safeguard the homes, to know the teachers, and to give the children every actual chance to grow and flourish. Children in America too often face the social contagion of constant pressure to follow their own truth, to get medical intervention, even surgeries, winding up with a lifetime of counseling and medication. We have a society that will tell children they need to understand, accept, and even participate in adult versions of sexuality, even to the extent of allowing children who cannot drive, legally sign a contract, marry, or join the military to make a decision that they're not what their biology says they are. We have reached the zenith of social schizophrenia. On the one hand, telling a child that we're going to affirm them, while on the other hand, demanding that they be treated or altered because they were made wrong. How is that affirming? We claim to value children as important, as dear to us, and yet we have callously allowed a national policy of allowing vulnerable children to wander across our borders and then be farmed out to alleged family members, and then promptly wash our hands of them and write them off the books. We have to rein this in. They will be adults soon enough if they make it that far. How will they remember their childhood? How will 300,000 kids remember their childhood? Kids are a gift from God, and we're called to be good stewards of his gifts. That's why I'm concerned. Our nation is on the one hand doing all that we can for kids, and on the other hand, we're destroying them at a rate never before seen. Gone are the days we can just turn a blind eye. Gone are the days we can just shrug our shoulders and go, that's not my kid, so it's not my fight. It is your fight. Progressive liberals want our kids, and if it's not your kid today, it'll be your grandchild tomorrow. It'll be that sweet neighbor kid who plays in the yard. It'll be the little minions who run in the hallways of your church or play on the playground at the corner or ride bikes on your street. This, my friends, is a fight for all of us. This is for all God's children. As a nation, as a culture, we're going to be held accountable one day. I believe that. Future generations who are kids right now will look back on this time, and what will they say about us? It is not enough to say that we were good stewards with our possessions or our skills and talents or our natural resources or even our time. One of the greatest forms of stewardship that any culture could ever be measured against is a simple question: what did you do with the children? And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. I'm telling you, man, this is a tough topic. But we have an entire, just like hundreds of thousands of kids, just an entire generation of kids staring at us right now. And when they're adults, what will they be thinking? Are we going to be the group that said, yeah, we're going to let you be carved up on the altar of transgenderism? And we're going to be the group that also said, oh, by the way, we don't care who picks you up. We're just going to call the number and get you off our hands. Wander across the border. That's cool. All said and done. We got time to fix this, and we better fix it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. A crazy story. It's probably one of the craziest stories I've ever told on the air. So stand by, it's coming. But let me precede it by saying, nothing good ever comes from any action that is preceded by someone saying, here, hold my beer and watch this. I mean, if somebody says, hold my beer and watch this, literally nothing good is about to happen. But as bad as that phrase is for starting something, it might be even worse to hear somebody say in the aftermath, whose idea was this? I mean, if somebody's looking around going, whose idea was this? Well, that's a phrase that's steeped in regret and bewilderment. It's a question that is usually resulting in people immediately avoiding eye contact, pointing fingers, even lawyering up. Whose idea was this? It's a question that implies that an action or a decision or an utterance was believed at one time to have held such promise, and in the aftermath is seen as a huge debacle. Everything seemed great until it wasn't. And suddenly everybody wants answers and nobody wants responsibility. And sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it absolutely isn't funny at all. And the question of whose idea was this is one that is usually also preceding some form of accountability. Someone's about to feel the wrath, or at least know the consequences of their decision-making. I mean, I can think of a few things where they were just bad ideas, where someone thought a certain way and totally messed up in business. Like, how about this? 1962. Up-and-coming rock and roll band auditioned for the vice president of talent for Decca Records in London. He was not impressed. He told the band's manager, we don't like your boys' sound. Groups are out. 4-piece groups with guitars particularly are finished. Well, that band was the Beatles, who went on to sell over 2 billion albums worldwide. Someone somewhere at Decca Records had to have looked around and go, Whose idea was it to turn that down? Here's another one for you. 1876. I'm reaching, I know, way back there. 1876. William Orton was the president of Western Union. Western Union had the monopoly on the most advanced communications technology then available, called the telegraph. Orton was offered the patent on a new invention, the telephone. He was offered the patent on the telephone for $100,000, which is about $2 million in current money. But he considered the whole idea ridiculous. And he actually wrote to Alexander Graham Bell saying, "After careful consideration of your invention, while it is an interesting novelty, we have come to the conclusion it has no commercial possibilities. What else could this company make of an electrical toy?" An electrical toy. I hope someone on his board of directors looked around the room and said, "Whose idea was this?" The bottom line is he was so in his own bubble, he could not see the way forward. But let me tell you the craziest story I think I've ever heard that had to end with somebody being asked, whose idea was this? It's on the funny side. It's one I'd never heard until recently. Okay, so everybody knows and loves the ancient story of Pinocchio, right? Little Pinocchio, the wooden puppet made by the lonely old craftsman Geppetto, who had always wanted a son. And the Disney classic rendition with Jiminy Cricket and the whole cast of timeless characters came out in 1940. And the premiere of the film was a really, really big deal. See, Disney had sunk a lot into making this one. And the audiences, they couldn't wait. It was an instant classic before it even hit the big screen. Pinocchio, all the fanfare, everybody's coming out. Bring your kids, it's going to be awesome. And then somebody had a great idea for the promo event at the big premiere. Somewhere, someone, somehow sold the Disney team on an idea that turned into a total goat rodeo. The summary of it is this. In 1940, Disney hired 11 little people, which were formerly known to the world as midgets, which is a word that apparently no longer is considered appropriate, so I have to now say little people. So little people. Disney hired 11 little people, and they made a boardroom decision to hire these 11 little people and dress them up in Pinocchio costumes, complete with a big heavy mask. And they put them on top of the movie marquee, way up high, to wave at the crowds who were lining up below to come to the premiere of the great new animated movie, Pinocchio. Little people dancing and cavorting in front of a gawking crowd. What could go wrong? Well, everything could go wrong. It was apparently hot that day, and the little people got hungry, and then they got mad. And somewhere around midday, somebody decided to assuage their concerns and send up some food, and for reasons that nobody can explain, they also sent up alcohol. Yep, alcohol. Whereupon the little people who were already hot and bothered got soused. Drunk little people began stripping off their costumes, like all of them, right down to their birthday suit. And then they started gambling, and then began yelling profanity down at the crowds. All inhibition was gone, as nearly a dozen little people sat up there on the movie marquee in all their naked glory, mocking innocent moviegoers mercilessly while shooting craps. And they refused to stop. No amount of pleas would assuage the angst of the angry, drunken little exhibitionists. So by mid-afternoon, it had gotten so bad, the New York Police Department had to send officers over with ladders who had to... And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can text it or call it. We'll take both. Hey, JP, by the way, yesterday we talked about Hulk Hogan and you played his Rick Derringer intro music.
Yep.
Do you know we got blocked?
I did. I predicted it.
We played it for all of 30 seconds and YouTube blocked us.
I think I actually told you before. I was like, we can't play it on the YouTube. We're going to get blocked. I think you were just like, it was worth it.
Hey, got to real quick tell you about attorney Stan McDonald, but I got to tell you something. So Stan just texted me, literally just texted me right before I came back on the air. He said he's at a continuing ed seminar right now, JP. And he said, they just announced you no longer have to do the thing about no representation made the quality of legal service before. You don't have to do that anymore.
So do we keep doing it out of spite?
Well, no, if I don't do it, though, I feel like I'm walking around with my pants unzipped.
Yeah,
I mean, it just feels like I'm doing something wrong.
It's like something's missing.
Yeah, like your shoes are untied. Anyway, attorney Stan McDonald. Yes, indeed. Attorney Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama, daily sponsor of your Rightside Way monologue. Oh, by the way, he's been an OG ruffian from way back. The man is super conservative. He's been in the mix on conservative policies and politics for years. But yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, as a lawyer, has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He knows how to represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. That's good stuff. So attorney Stan McDonald at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. If you need an attorney in North Alabama, I'm going to give you his phone number. Are you ready? Here we go. Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And now I'll just say he's a darn good lawyer.
There you go. That's all I have to say now.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's going to be odd going forward.
Just wacky. All right, text line. See what I got here. David at Bucky's gave us an update. Oh yeah, so Lori was having her surgery yesterday. Let me go back and make sure I got that. It's his daughter Lori, and she was having back surgery, and it was a pretty big deal. And they had to go in from the front and the back to be able to operate on her spine. Anyway, he sent in a quick update. He says, quick update at 6 p.m. California time. He said, Lori was awake, alert, and feisty. Surgery went well. Said, I wouldn't expect any less with all the ruffian prayers. The hospital staff were great. She starts physical therapy today. If there's any more updates, I'll be sure to let you know. Again, thank you. And thanks to all the fellow ruffians out there. So get some applause on that one. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it, David. Very glad to hear it. Dave from Capshaw, Alabama. I think he sends us all the birthdays. Dave from Capshaw, Alabama. 70th birthday, Karen, one of the, hang on a second. What is it? What we got here? Are you kidding me? Oh, that is awesome. So he got a bulletproof influence glass for the 70th birthday of one of our fans, Karen. And so here she is taking a shot of Maker's Mark Kentucky bourbon to christen it. And we will see you Monday evening in Huntsville. I am loving that. Happy 70th birthday, Karen. And glad to see you got one of our bulletproof influence glasses. That's very cool. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, wow, Colonel Phil, tough monologue. All I can say is amen. It's a tough topic, dude, but thank you. And yeah, amen very much. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, if this was me doing what the Biden administration did to these children, I'd be charged with child abuse or at least child neglect. Said, I realize this was the government doing this to these kids and they think immunity from prosecution, but then again, so do the Nazis, and that didn't go very well for them. Fair. And then David from Taft, Tennessee just said, love the monologue. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. It is a tough topic, y'all. And we're going to kick it off here in a few minutes. But what has happened over the past few years, especially, and can I blame it on the Biden administration? Yes. Yes, I can. A lot of it I can. Now, society had to allow certain things to happen, but leadership sets a tone. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, too. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Wrap them up in sheets and take them all into custody. I mean, think about that. Whose idea was this? Who thought it would be awesome to dress up and exploit a bunch of little people as Pinocchios, leave them up on a balcony in the hot sun with wine and sandwiches for the day, and then wonder why they got drunk, mad, naked, screaming swear words? It defies logic. I mean, surely somebody had to pay for that one, wouldn't you think? Whose idea was this? A question that surely had to be followed by somebody losing their job. But you see this stuff all the time, right? I mean, decisions made in the boardroom. Who put Dylan Mulvaney on that beer can? Whose decision was this? Whose idea? Totally made in a vacuum and totally without any consideration for the consequences, because the decision makers are so into their own bubble that they can't imagine any outcome other than the one they want. So let's keep in mind that the enemy always gets a vote in warfare, right? You can make your own plans, but the other side gets to shoot. Anytime I go to court as an attorney, I try to anticipate what the other side is actually thinking and planning. That's how it works. But decisions being made in a vacuum inside the bubble, they usually end up with someone in authority demanding to know whose idea was this. And the history of the world is replete with ridiculously bad decisions. Decisions that, once made, actually may cost someone or some company countless opportunities and boundless riches. But what about also the decisions, though, that did more than just affect property or profit margins? What about the decisions that, once they were made, had the notoriety of negatively affecting actual lives, even to the point of death, even to the point of usurping the will of the people? And that brings me to my point. You see, we're learning more right now about the infamous decision-making that led to an attempt to co-opt the duly elected first term of Donald Trump. What we're now seeing in actual documentation is that there was a true decision-making process by people who sat in their ivory towers and decided they knew best, that they and they alone knew the way forward, that surely there would be no repercussions because, they are who they are. And what we know now is something that we have long suspected but never had the ability to truly see or get the bottom of it. And now we have the ability and the authority to ask, whose idea was this? What we know right now is that millions of tax dollars, countless barrages of biased media, the full force of the US government, the jailing of innocent people, all in what became known as the Russia collusion narrative of 2016 was in fact a lie. What we know now, because Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is publishing the documents she found, is that in 2016, all of the intelligence summaries of the day indicated that Russia had an interest in meddling with our elections, but that there was no evidence of collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign until after Trump was elected. Yeah. So on December 7th of 2016, 1 month after Trump won, the intel summary said there was no collusion. But on December 9th of 2016, 2 days later, President Barack Obama called in Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor, James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, John Brennan of the CIA, Andrew McCabe of the FBI, and John Kerry to meet about Russia. After which, all of a sudden, the memos that we are now uncovering show that Brennan went back to tell everyone in the intel community that, quote, at the direction of the president, end quote, at the direction of the president, the narrative had to be revised. And suddenly, we got the Russia collusion hoax, followed by the Mueller investigation, followed by massive media barrages and leaks, followed by congressional hearings. This went on for years, all because someone had a really bad idea and they actually decided to act on it. This is not losing money on a missed opportunity. This is not just seeing an invention that could have changed the world and you dissed it. This is not drunk, naked little people cursing at children. This is our nation's sanctity. This is the abuse of office. This is an attempt, an official attempt, to actually subvert the will of the people and undermine the office of the presidency. I mean, whose idea was this? It appears to have been Obama's. And we want accountability now. We do. We want to know that someone's going to be held accountable. Why am I telling you all this? I'll tell you why. Because we have a right to question. And that right to question is based not just on freedom of expression and freedom of speech. It's also based on the simple fact that history dictates that people make stupid decisions about things that negatively affect others all the time. But when they do so in their official capacity with the evil intent of undermining our governance, that, my friends, is a crime.
Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I'm covering down. I just had to yell something at JP. I'm sorry. I had to mute my mic and go yell. JP is asking me for the simple text just went out again.
You got logged out again?
I did.
I'll put it on the board over there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I don't even know what to do now. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I know.
Dipper number one.
Let's do that. So I'm in this first piece right now on Find the Children. And, you can probably gather from my my monologue how I feel about this topic. And I want to give you a little background on this. So as part of my overly eclectic, sometimes schizophrenic resume, this is the way I call it. Because here's the thing. Let me just say this about me. If you've looked at my resume ever, you may look at it and go, are you sure those are all you? Yes, they are. And that's because I guess I would like to say I've made a habit of seeing that if God said go here, I go there. And it doesn't matter to me whether it looks like something that just made good sense to the rest of the world. It was the place where I was supposed to be. So yes, I have this military thread that ran through my life. Airborne Ranger, the whole thing, did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Pentagon, all of it. Retired as a colonel. That was mostly Guard and Reserve time, which no taking away from it because it was true service. But then I've also of course, been practicing law for 23 years. I didn't go to law school, though, till I was in my 30s, which meant that I was doing something prior to that. Well, I also spent 8 years in the state Senate. Yes, I did. But the piece that I probably haven't touched on as much, but it was surely a part of my life, is a massive piece of my life, is the first 10 years post-college for me. I was committed full-time to working with kids. And a lot of times it was the most vulnerable kids who had oftentimes been abused or were in a bad way. So a number of those years was in full-time ministry with an organization called Young Life. And then at the same time, there was several of those years, 3.5 actually, where I worked in an adolescent treatment center. And that treatment center, I mean, it got to the point that sometimes it was hard not to take it home with you. Because yes, some of those kids had self-inflicted wounds. And yes, I understand that addiction is still a choice to some degree. And yes, I understand that there are things that kids do when they have behavioral problems that they do. But I also saw what the world can do to a kid. And I would find myself sometimes thinking I had just seen the last of it. I'd finally seen the worst. And then I would see the next one come in and I go, my God, why do these things happen? I mean, I know we live in a depraved world. I know there are people out there that I would never allow to spend time with my kids or grandkids. I know that there are people that I wouldn't trust to walk my dog, much less babysit kids. But then when you see them, you're still like, oh my God, you guys exist. You people are real. And you think, how do you exist in life? How do you get by? How do you sleep at night? And part of that may very well be because they have no conscience. The true definition of sociopathic is meaning that they have a mental status that does not allow them to connect to the same feelings and interests and sometimes even the rights and wrongs that the rest of society does. All that to say, I care about kids a lot. And I will tell you this, I have raised my kids. My kids are wonderful. They're grown now. Charlene and I have said several times, it's amazing to us. We feel like we raised kids that are better than us. I mean, I wish I was like my kids when I was their age. At the same time, I now have grandkids and they are young. They're tender age. They're one's about to turn 6. The other one's 3. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I said it. I used to say this to kids, like high school kids, when I was doing ministry. I would talk to them about what Jesus did on the cross. And I would point out to them that for God so loved the world, and that meant you, and you. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. And I said, I want you to think about something. I said, that didn't hit me near as hard until I was a dad. I said, because I can tell you right now, as a dad and now as a granddad, I wouldn't give one of my kids for any of you. Not a one. That's how deep his love for you is. But I say that because also I'm telling you why this topic means so much to me. I have spent years steeped in what it means to try and rescue kids, help kids, minister to kids, counsel kids. And it's a never ending, opportunity to do that. And we need more people who are willing to step into the fray and do that. But we also need more people to pay attention to what's being done to kids. The last 4 years, in my opinion, have been a feeding frenzy for evil. Now, I know I'm being weighty today. It's Friday afternoon. We'll lighten it up later. Right now, though, you need to understand that I think that what I'm saying right now, listen, if you're having this water cooler conversation with somebody later on, you go ahead and quote this. And if you're comfortable, just use it as your own, but you're welcome to attribute it to me. I don't care. But the bottom line is I think that much of what happened over the last 4 years to kids as an official act or as a promotion of a policy or as something that was done in the courts or as something that at the very least was led by the White House was just nothing less than evil. It was. I can look in scripture and I can find stories of child sacrifice and think, how does a society get that far removed? And then I can see some of what's happened here. How does it become okay to say, yeah, we're going to carve you up to make you different than the way you were born because we think that science no longer matters. And if you feel like you want to be a girl, we're going to carve you up till you are one. Sort of. Maybe. Kind of. Not really. But we're going to say it is. How does a society get to the point that it can open up the borders and just let an absolute tidal wave of humanity mass migrate across our borders, millions and millions and millions of them, to include hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors. First of all, who sends a minor across the border by themselves? And by the way, some of them I know were trafficked, so there's that. But then once they get here, instead of doing a good job, we had an administration that for 4 years went, I don't know what to do. They got a phone number in their pocket. I don't know, call it, see who's there. And then give the kids away. Give the kids away. I'm telling you, y'all, look, I am quoting to you from news sources. This all is real. This all happened. And we're doing all we can to right the wrongs right now. But it was official acts. Think about the White House. There's an old saying, as goes the king, so goes the country. Leadership matters. The southern border right now is a key example of what I just said. Leadership matters. Biden said he couldn't get it done. We got to have, like, Congress has got to weigh in. I can't do any more about the border, And then Trump gets elected and shabam, immigration's done. Like the border's locked down. Hardly anybody's even you can't even find somebody streaming across the border. And it's like crickets on the border now. That's leadership, y'all. Biden's got transgenders exposing themselves on the lawn of the White House. He's got TikTok videos of freak show people prancing up and down the halls of our much vaunted White House. He's got official policies. He's got members of his cabinet that are transgenders who are advocating, not just in their own personal life, but advocating for it for minors. What was the guy's name? The dude that wore the dress, Rachel Levine? My gosh, that Rachel Levine freak show was actually advocating for the idea of mutilating kids as an official act of the Biden administration. The Department of Education, the Biden Department of Education, made it an official policy to try and circumvent Title IX and say that dudes can be in girls' locker rooms because that's just okay now. No, it's not. But it was an official policy. How does a society get to the point that it can sacrifice children? Look at the Biden administration. They might not have burned them on the altar. They might not have cast them into the fire. But they sure did sacrifice them for their ideologies, didn't they? They absolutely did.
Kamala Harris, that's literally a core thing she ran on, was abortion. That was her top priority. Her entire campaign was around abortions. And there was also like the vasectomy vans in front of the DNC. They're like, when your whole messaging is to have less kids on top of mutilating the kids that are already here. I'm sorry, you're
or
just
abandoning the kids that came
yeah,
over.
You're just a party of evil at that point. And that's not a hyperbole, hyperbolic statement. That's just fact. So
it is. Listen, it's okay to say that, by the way. JP just put it real well. It's okay to say that. I mean, sometimes, and I think conservatives way more than the left. Now, granted, I've seen, people on the right side of the spectrum with, zero ability to moderate their words. Sometimes saying something's not necessary. But let me tell you, too often I think we also moderate our terms when we don't need to. You can call evil evil. You can look it in the eye and you can say, you are officially evil. And I don't use that word loosely. I've said before that I will use that very sparingly because I know the intent behind it. I know it's like when the left calls everybody a Nazi. Do you know what a Nazi really is? Don't abuse the term. Okay, well, I don't abuse the word evil. I've only described a couple of organizations that way. One of them is Planned Parenthood. One of them is the teachers' unions in general. But I will call a vast official policy of mutilating, disregarding, aborting, and co-opting the safety of kids as an institution of evil. And that's what it is. There's no way around it. Yesterday, I've got this piece right here. I pulled it off the House Oversight Committee's website. It came out 2 days ago. I said it briefly in my monologue. Chairman Clay Higgins, the Republican congressman from Louisiana, delivered opening remarks. He chairs the subcommittee on federal law enforcement. And the hearing was actually titled, this is the name of the hearing. It's on the agenda. The Catch and Release, Lose and Forget hearing. Catch and Release, Lose and Forget, addressing the crisis of unaccompanied alien children. And oh, by the way, this is part one of a series of hearings. And in his remarks, he talked about the fact that DHS just came out with a report talking about how their own department had failed in previous years to properly safeguard children. He says, and he points out, there were hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied alien children who entered the United States illegally over the last 4 years. President Trump has taken decisive action to close the southern border, virtually eliminating the flood of illegal immigrants. However, the failures of the previous administration led to unaccompanied children who have been lost in a system that was established to protect them and protect the United States. The sheer volume of cases, he said, enabled the prior administration's open border policies and then overwhelmed the entire system. He says the IG shared with my staff, this is the congressman talking, that almost 300,000 kids have unserved notices to appear for their court dates. And of that number, 58,000 are under the age of 12, and we have no idea where they are. No idea where they are. No idea where they are. All right, take me to a break there, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back.
We rotated in and out of nine countries, and I'll name them all here in a second. We'll see if I get my number right. But you got the Iraqi, Iraq, but what's it called?
OIF, Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah, Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF, OEF, Operation Enduring Freedom.
Right.
They call it all something different now, right?
they
Everything's
do.
changed. Went to Jordan twice. Went to Bahrain twice. Went to Korea twice. Went to Yemen once. Ported in Oman. So, I got stamps for Oman, I guess. You could say I went to Oman. So maybe that's seven countries. Any of the others I've been to have been on contracts outside of the SEAL team. So I guess 7 countries during the time in the SEAL teams, rotating in and out. And then one of them was a cool mission. At the time, I was really upset about it because I wanted to be in Afghanistan with the boys, killing bad guys. It was actually a cool mission with SDV. Without talking too much about it, we were just protecting the SDV, running sniper ops, protecting the SDV as it did the thing it did. And it was, we were around the Horn of Africa. We were in Iranian waters. We were in Omani waters. And, all of that area of where the Straits of Hormuz, when all that stuff was going on out there. Yeah, so that would have been one of those deployments, not necessarily a country. Went out of Bahrain. Oh, and UAE. So I guess that'd be 8. UAE, United Arab Emirates.
SDV, was that the SEAL delivery vehicle?
It is, yeah. So they do a lot of stuff. It's a little bit different. Again, it's considered combat because it's more, I don't want to say necessarily too much. It's reconnaissance in nature. We'll leave it at that. But it's combat reconnaissance.
All right. Some of those were shooting tours.
And
you went down as a sniper on at least 1 or 2 or 3 of your
all of them. Yeah. So when with the exception of that first one where I checked into the team, went to Iraq, so I was nothing. I was just a new guy at the team, escorting some weapons around and doing the thing in Germany. But all the others, all the other deployments, I was a sniper. And then the one where I went to all those different countries, I was a lead sniper from at SEAL Team 3 in particular for our task unit.
Confirmed kills?
Oh yeah. Killed a lot of people as a sniper. Got the privilege to kill a lot of people as a sniper. I got an award that says, I said this on the Mic Drop podcast not too long ago, I probably have 8 legitimate sniper kills that I shot the dude and we got pictures and all that stuff. I've got those 8. I got an award for 21 kills, which is what I got a buddy that calls me 21-0, but that wasn't necessarily, it appears that way in the way they count it, but I might have shot the guy and 5 other dudes. Me and a buddy of mine, Mike, he's going to do some stuff for the agency we were training the other day, and we were talking about it, how many dudes did we shoot that everybody else shot too? So you might have 5 guys shoot one dude and everybody's claiming a kill. Well, it's the same guy, so they're like, oh yeah, task unit's got 5 kills, no, we got 1 kill, but it's 5 dudes shooting the same guy. So,
but he's full of holes.
Oh no, yeah, he's definitely dead. But that being said, so did get quite a few confirmed sniper kills, especially as a new guy sniper, and then did some other really cool missions where we didn't necessarily get kills, but they were probably sketchier than anything I ever did, even getting shot at in combat, because it's hey, if we get shot doing this, we're done.
What's the longest in an austere environment or a combat zone environment where you had to lay in a hide and just
Oh,
provide
Tom?
overwatch? Yeah, like longest
I mean,
on scene.
On scene, probably 72 hours, I think.
No
Somewhere
kidding.
somewhere around 3 days. Yeah.
No
And I
kidding.
mean, it's not like you're just like laying here like in the movies, just not moving at all.
Pissing on yourself and the whole
Yeah,
thing.
no, it's not that. No, don't piss on yourself. Don't crap your pants. Don't piss. No, nobody does that. Just roll over and pee and make, and but I would say I think 72 hours was the longest one that I was in a sniper hide on, and we would move, and we were breaking down that sniper hide and moving around.
Two-man team?
No, it was, so for us on that one, I think it was four of us. I think it was four of us in a sniper hide, two snipers, a comms guy, and a guy that was carrying rockets and the Carl G. I don't know if you know the Carl G. Man, that thing is
Gustav,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Carl G. So the guy that was carrying it, Greg, he killed like 12 people with a Carl G. It was in one. He just said, he's like, hey man, I'm going to set this thing to airburst. These guys are shooting at us behind a wall. They hang out the wall and shoot. And he's like, I'm going to set an airburst right over that wall. So I gave him the distance to the wall. It was like 1,100 meters. He's like, I only got 11 and 12. And I just remember him turning it and clicking. He's like, I'm going to leave it right here halfway between. He fired that thing over the wall, and it air bursted, and the shooting stopped. So we clear up to it, and dude, all these dudes are back there. They're like, oh, it's kind of half a.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. So I did that entire last segment. That was a soliloquy without notes. That was just me talking from the heart. I've got a pile of stuff here that I do want to touch on some of it. Like I will tell you, News Nation has a piece that just came out yesterday afternoon that confirms that the Trump administration has located more than 13,000 of these migrant children who came across unaccompanied that are had been missing. They've located 13,000 of them. It's a good start. But I also take note that in this News Nation story, it says that in addition to the 13,061 migrant minors that have now been accounted for, HHS told News Nation this week that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement has also arrested 422 of their sponsors who were accused of abusing the minors in their care or of other crimes. Good Lord. And then he goes on to talk about how many kids that they're finding spread out around the nation. And they're actually starting a new thing. Where is this story I've got? I think it's this one from Daily Wire. Daily Wire has pointed out that, is it Daily Wire? Yeah, I think it is. That they are now working on repatriating some of these kids back to their home countries. And you look at that and go, okay, how do we do this? Whether we're not talking about every tender age child. We're talking about kids between the ages of 14 and 17, still minors, because once they turn the age of 18, in most cases, 19 in Alabama, but 18 in most cases, they're considered of the age of majority. But between 14 and 17, they're asking kids, do you want to go back to your home country? If they say yes, then they're being turned over to ICE for deportation proceedings, and being treated well. They're not going to Alligator Alcatraz, nothing of that. But what was interesting to me was, I guarantee you the left's going to scream about that. You're just putting minors on a plane and shipping them back home. Well, guess what? That's part of the Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act of 2022, signed by the Otto Penn himself. So that's already the law. Democrats passed it.
You say the Otto Penn himself?
I did say the Otto Penn himself.
You personified the Otto Penn.
I did. I've got an audio clip here. By the way, how much time have I got? I'm burning my time.
About 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. I may have to get that one after we talk to Erica Thomas. So I've got a piece right here, though. One of the most disturbing things is you really worry about these 300,000 kids that are missing. Tom Homan, piece on the New York Post, Dateline today, says thousands of these kids who have disappeared have been sex trafficked to pedophiles. And he also revealed that most recently they found a 14-year-old pregnant girl living with a group of men just in the last couple of weeks. He says, we rescued victims of sex trafficking. 2 weeks ago, we rescued a 14-year-old girl that was already pregnant, living with adult men. We rescued some victims of forced labor. We found children working on ranches and chicken farms, not going to school, just enslaved labor in the United States. He says some of these children we found were perfectly fine with their families. They just didn't respond to the call-ins because they didn't want to face the immigration court. But they're also finding some that are not. And I look at this and go, my gosh. But, you know, let me make sure I'm clear. It's not just about the immigration issue. All right. We have to be a society that is proactively engaged in the idea of protecting kids. We have a story that just broke in Alabama that is perhaps one of the most heinous stories that I have ever heard of. In fact, it's even hard to talk about. And I'm going to warn you, I'm going to go ahead and tell some of y'all right now. I think it's a story you need to listen to. But I will also tell you that last night when I was listening to some of the details, it just so upset me that I didn't know that I could do the show today on it. And it happened right down the road in Bibb County, which, to give you the lay of the land, in case you're not familiar, if you were driving down I-20 from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa, Bibb County is halfway. All right, so Bibb County sits on the south side of I-20, halfway between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. That's our back door. That's my listening area. That's right here in Alabama, that they just found a group of these. I mean, if you see their pictures, you look at them and go, y'all look like something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a bunch of backwoods, inbred looking miscreants who were literally, they had a bunker in the ground where they were trafficking kids for sex. And we're talking kids as young as 2 years old. They were torturing them. They were abusing them. They were raping them. And it went on for apparently several years. They had adults who would make appointments to come and spend time with these kids. They would sometimes make $1,000 a night selling kids for $200 an hour. In a storm shelter in the ground behind a shack in Bibb County, Alabama. Erica Thomas is going to be on in a few minutes. And I'm going to let her do the best she can to report on it, because Erica first broke this story in May with 1819 News. And I'm going to tell you right now, 1819 News has come on the scene and has really just done an amazing job of making every other news site in the state look like Bush League. They are reporting on things that people don't want to touch, and they are telling you stories that some people don't want to report. And Erica Thomas is about as sweet a person as it gets, but she told me last night she'll come on and talk with me, but it's hard to talk about. So we're gonna have this story on in a minute. I'm talking about, this whole dipper is called Find the Children, where there were kids that were missing in Bibb County, Alabama. Some of them were found. I don't know how many were not. Y'all brace yourselves. It's a tough story. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
We do the biometrics on them, take the pictures, and all that stuff. But it had those. I was talking to Andy Stumpf about this on a podcast not long ago. Flechettes. You remember the flesh?
Oh, yeah.
I'd never seen what was in a Carl G airburst. Well, it was all those flechette things, man. It looked like it just tore these dudes to pieces. Anyway, so sorry.
Just so you know, we're at 1 hour here. So.
Can we take a piss?
Yeah, I think we can.
Right.
Why don't we do this? Well, I don't have to say it now because you just said it. So we're on the mic. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come right back and wrap up. Let me ask you, though. First of all, how many years were you in active duty?
So I want to clarify something on that question. I was in the SEAL teams for 6.5 years, or maybe just a little bit less than 6.5 years.
All right.
But I was in the military for a total of 8 years. Now, you're going to understand this because I've had some people ask, as I've said before, 6 and 8. And here's the reason. When I was running the campaign for sheriff, people asked, well, I was in for 6 years because I was at the teams for 6 years, a little over 6 years. And that's what my DD-214 would say. However, there was a year and a half technically on my paperwork. So if anybody does a search, they say, well, this guy was in 8 years. So I had people during my campaign for sheriff that said, what's this guy trying to hide? Was he kicked out of the military? He was in for 8 years. Why is he saying 6.5? Does that make sense?
Okay.
On the other, and you understand that being in politics, anybody will grab it
they're
whenever
going to
they can.
scrutinize, man.
And so then I was like, well, crap, So then I'm like, all right, well, I'm in 8 years, but I feel bad saying that because my last year and a half was I was still a SEAL. I was checking into a NOSC as an inactive ready reserve to get called back in anytime, and I was trying to go to the reserve SEAL team, but that's where they found I had type 1 diabetes and I wasn't able to continue my service. So I was in that kind of a med process. So I didn't actually get my final paperwork till I think it was August of 2014, which was exactly 8 years from the time that I signed on and went into the Navy to the time I exited the Navy. 8 years.
I get it. But let me ask you about that. So Type 1 diabetes. I mean, is there diabetes in your family? Was this
There
something that
is,
was this injury induced? Was it hereditary? Where'd this come from?
So I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes it was at that transition time between active duty SEAL teams and reserve SEAL teams. And my mom had diabetes. And at the time, I remember going to the Group 1 medical doctor and him saying, and me and my wife and even friends in San Diego, they weren't in the military or anything. They're just friends we had in San Diego we went to church with. They live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho now. Is it Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? Yeah, yeah. They live in Idaho now, in Coeur d'Alene, and he's a prosecutor. But they were laughing because I get back from all these deployments, and I'm like, hey, I might get out. I'd screened positive, for development group to go to Green Team, did the run, the swim, all that stuff. And the reason I say that is they actually use that against me because they're like, there's no way you have diabetes. That's what the Group 1 doctor said. He says, there's no way you have diabetes. And I was like, I don't think I have diabetes. He said, we'll retake the test. Come back again. I'll come back the next day. He said, be sure you fast for 12 hours. Fast for 12 hours, come back again. He's like, triglycerides were out of whack that they had run. And he
Could
said,
you feel it? I mean, was it
not
slowing
at
you
the
down
time.
at all? No?
Now looking back on it, yes, there were things that I was feeling that I thought was just normal everyday pain and everyday issues that it was actually related to diabetes, but I didn't know it at the time. It's just different things I can talk about in a little bit, but no, there was nothing that made me think that I had diabetes. And he's like, there's no way you've got diabetes. The second time, he said, it was a Friday. He said, do me a favor. When you go home this weekend, don't eat a bunch of chips at the Mexican restaurant. Don't drink, which I didn't drink anyway. But he said, don't drink. Don't go out to the bars. He said, you ain't got to fast. But he said, just do kind of like a chicken and broccoli sort of thing. He said, and I remember eating, I remember my wife fixing chicken. I was like, hey, we need to do this so I can make sure my stuff is right. He's saying it's wrong because maybe what I ate beforehand. So literally the whole weekend eating chicken and broccoli, and salad.
Wow.
Monday coming in, my blood work was okay. It was good. And but I remember that as I was getting out. So I transitioned over into the reserve side, come back home to Birmingham, Alabama, and I wound up losing about 25 pounds I think it was 26 exactly, but my wife showed me a video of it the other day. She still had saved on her phone. Like I looked like a different person. I went from 200 pounds down to 174 pounds in less than 2 weeks, about 10 days.
What was that attributed to? I mean,
that happens when you have diabetes.
Okay,
you
so
type
that was
1 diabetes, yeah.
Right.
And peeing all the time. My wife and she feels bad. She talks about, at the time she felt really bad when she found out. She's like, did you brush your teeth? You smell like cream corn. That's what she was saying. And it was that sweet smell. It was that because I was in, diabetic ketoacidosis. It's that blood sugar coming out. Like law enforcement, you pull somebody over, if they're a diabetic, you might think that they were drinking because of the smell and also because of how they act. So a buddy of mine's medic said, bro, you sound like he said, everything you're telling me, I was hunting with these guys. I was passing out at the base of a tree. I'd found me sleeping out there. He's like, dude, all your stuff you have going on sounds like you have diabetes. And so now I'd heard that before from the.
No kidding. I mean, that
was here. That was right up the road here hunting I say down the road, I should say, over in Walker County. And so I went home and I said, Mom, Tyler says he thinks I have diabetes. Can I use your blood? She had diabetes. I said, can I use type 1? I said, let me use your blood sugar checker and check my blood sugar. My blood sugar was like 590.
Oh, wow.
So we knew then.
You're still walking around and all that,
Oh,
though.
yeah. And I was passing out at weird times. I was peeing all the time. So all of the things, everything was blurry. Like I remember thinking, my eyes, especially at night when I'd see lights on vehicles, I remember being so blurry, and I thought it's because my eyes were so used to running on night vision all the time that it's almost like the lights are too bright.
Yeah.
I remember telling myself, talking to my wife about it. I'm like, God, do these lights not look star clustered to you? And because your blurriness in your eyes start happening, go to the VA, start the process. SOCOM Care Coalition gets involved because it's not uncommon. Now I definitely can't be a SEAL. I can't go back into the SEAL team's active duty. We're going to let my wife finish nursing school. I was going to go back in and then try to screen for development group again to go to Green Team and go to the East Coast. And the reason I bring that up is because when I left, my chief, who came from Red Squadron Development Group, picked a few of us, and we went out. I remember I borrowed his fins to do the swim in. Passed the test and everything. They had the board out there where they're sitting and do the psychological eval and all that stuff. And I don't know the process anymore, but he told me, he said, Jared, if you stay in, if you stay in, you're going to get a slot in green team. You're going to go. You're going to go over to development group.
That was your
and
dream, wasn't it?
do what?
That was your dream, wasn't it?
Well, that's what I wanted to do. I want
Yeah.
to stay and do that. But I was also at a point where my wife had her school paid for here in Birmingham, Alabama. She had been waiting on me a lot. I was jaded about some of the stuff. I didn't like the Obama administration. I mean, there's all the things that anybody deals with, you know. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that, but I really wanted to go home. So that's the
Plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday. We're going to get you all the way to go home time, but right now we're gonna do a little more on this topic. So Dipper number 1, I'm calling it Find the Children, and it's everything from finding these kids that are lost by the Biden administration to finding kids that are lost in the cracks of our society to also finding kids that are being taken into places they should never have to ever be going. A story broke most recently, and I'll be honest with you, it's our friends at 1819 News that, in my opinion, get the kudos for getting into this thing first. But the rest of the world's now talking about it. I've seen it on national news. I've seen it everywhere. And my friend Erica Thomas is an investigative reporter who does great work. She's been with 1819 since the beginning. And she's the one who has been reporting on this story out of Bibb County, Alabama. And I'm going to bring her on right now and let her do some talking. Erica Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Phil, although these kind of stories are really the kind that make me rethink my career sometimes. You know, I just think I don't want to know the evil that exists out there, but somebody's got to do it. So I guess I will. But I will say this is difficult for even a reporter, a seasoned reporter, desensitized, I say at times. This kind of story really hit me, and I know it really hit the investigators out there.
We had some DAs come down to Montgomery when I was in the state Senate asking for us to strengthen some of the laws on child abuse, and I'm gonna never forget them saying it's the worst part of their job because they have to look at the evidence in order to bring the conviction, and then they almost can't shake it off when they go home at night.
Exactly. Yeah, and on this case, I've been combing through court documents since May. I actually broke this story on May 10th when they had the initial arrest of the one suspect, Andre Trejo Velasquez. He was charged initially with 6 counts of first-degree human trafficking. Now, this was before the indictments came down. When the indictments came down this week, that's when this case really blew up. A lot of the details from that indictment came out, and they were just shocking. In fact, this is the most shocking case in Bibb County history that involves sexual abuse of a child. Sheriff Jody Wade, who has been in law enforcement for 33 years, even said it's the most horrible case he has ever seen.
Yeah, I read that comment in one of your stories, and I can imagine. And I look at this too. I'd say beyond Bibb County, I've worked with kids. I don't know if you heard me say that earlier in the show. I've even worked with abused kids and kids who have been, drastically abused. But I don't know that I've ever seen such a congregation of just evil of this group of people that they've now indicted. Who, when you look at their mugshots, you think you guys are just like the lowest of the low trash of society. And not only that, not only they look like it, but they act like it.
Yeah, it really, it's weird to say this and kind of, I don't want to ever be I don't want to be confused and people thinking, oh, you're Hollywooding or romanticizing this, but truly, when you look at these people, you think, what kind of inbred mountain men movie did you just walk off a set of?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can just tell that's what they are. And that's what they were doing, allegedly. Now, some of them, I don't know the extent to their involvement, but people did this to these children in an underground bunker. They drugged them, tied them to poles and beds, and allowed people to pay to come in and sexually abuse these children. At the time of the crime, the youngest victim was only 2 years old. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Were kids rescued in this? I mean, did they go in there and find kids and rescue them? Or do we just know now from confessions? What do you know about that?
Well, they did rescue the children in a way. They are now in the care of the Department of Human Resources, which we know that. But there's also other children out there that Jody Wade said, he believes there's more victims that they haven't found yet. So they're going to hopefully locate those victims, and more suspects will be charged when they do. But these children were being brought into this underground bunker at different times. They were not living in there. So as they started to interview people in this case, they developed more information. And as the interviews continued, they realized just how many children were involved in this.
Do you know? And I hate to ask this, but were they filming them? Were they then selling the videos later too, and all that? What do you know about that?
I haven't heard any specific details, but there are allegations of child porn. So that would be what you would assume they are talking about. There's also some really sickening details that came out this week about bestiality being involved in this case. You know, I just believe that the investigators said that these suspects were connected to a gang that primarily funds itself through human trafficking. So this was an operation that was a lot more widespread than just a little case in Bibb County. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say this little town, Brent in Bibb County, and their sister city, Centerville, you know, they're just really rocked by what's happened. And so I do want to say something that will happen this weekend that I think is a good thing in reaction to this is there will be at least 2 prayer vigils planned. They're going to have one Saturday and one Sunday. And so, you know, it's just a really great way to kind of help not only the community try to heal through this, but also pray for those victims and pray that the ones that are still out there are found and rescued.
Do you know? By the way, do you know the times and places of those prayer vigils? If you want to announce them, you're welcome to do it right now.
Yes, I can definitely do that, but you can also go to 1819news.com and click on my name, and you'll see all the stories on this under there in the details on this. But the first prayer vigil will be in the morning, Saturday morning at Friendship Lodge. That's a Mason lodge, from 8 to 9 in the morning. And that will be in Centerville, like right in the town square of Centerville. So people can gather there for that. The second one will be Sunday evening at 6 p.m. at the historic Centerville Presbyterian Church. And Centerville's mayor, Mike Oakley, I talked to him yesterday, and he said, you know, this is just beyond believable that anything like this could happen in our community, in our neighboring community. And we just really want to reach out and love on our sister city and let them know that we're here for them.
That's good. That's the right reaction. And let me ask you, go back to the criminals. Were they transient, or did they live there? Were they residents of the area, or were they people who had kind of come in and set up shop? Do you know?
Well, there's so many people involved in this circle. Definitely there were some that born and bred in Bibb County, just lived there. In fact, I think where the situation was going down, one of the suspects lived there on that property with his grandmother who probably had no idea what was going on in her backyard. And the investigators said it would be very easy to sneak into this underground bunker, which was actually built as a storm shelter. It's like a cinder block underground storm shelter. So the old lady would have never had a clue what was going on, you know. And I think that's important to point out. But this kid, he lived there with her. And then there were others involved. One is a Hispanic male, and I just think it is so just beyond that we can't figure out if he was here legally or not. That's one of the questions we've been asking since the beginning. And Homeland Security, FBI, the local sheriff's office, they cannot say if this guy, who appears to be sort of the ringleader, is here legally or not. And I think that's something that the people deserve to know. The community deserves to know, you know, where this guy came from, how he got here. And I think we will eventually find that out, but why they're not releasing that is beyond me.
Yeah. I don't know either. And this, you know, I look at this situation that we've got, and I can't help but wonder, are they, and I hate to say this, but are they going to have to bring cadaver dogs out there to search the property? Because these are the kind of people that also eliminate the evidence. And I know I'm totally speculating when I say that. You're an investigative reporter. You go with facts. I'm just opining right now. But that there's going to be more that gets unfolded out of this, I guarantee you.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be a good idea. I'm sure they thought about that. These seasoned investigators out there, they really have done a great job digging into what's happened. No pun intended. That sounded bad. But I'm sure, I guarantee you that with their knowledge and their experience, that is something they have thought about. So we will hope and pray that they've already done that and that they didn't find anything. I think that would be the best case. A lot of people have actually kind of gotten upset with law enforcement for some of the things that they've said, even the DA. Some people, they just say they don't like the way that they make positive out of some of this. I know I've gotten some of these comments from people. We have to remember these investigators that are on the ground, they are dealing with this day in and day out, seeing some of the worst things you could possibly imagine seeing. And so when they say the good thing about this is we found the suspects on time, what they mean is thank God there weren't more victims. And, a lot of people are really sensitive to that, and they point out, why would they say there's anything good about this? There's nothing good about this. That's not what those investigators mean. They're just really glad that there won't be any more victims, because the repercussions of what these people did to these children are going to live in those kids for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They're going to have impact from this forever. I mean, you basically ruined a life. And that's why they're having a prayer vigil now, because that's the only thing we can do at this point is pray. Pray for those children, pray for the victims, and pray for the community.
Yeah, and I would say too, be vigilant, people, prayerful but vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your head on a swivel, and if you see something, say something, because these are kids. Well, my friend, you have once again nailed it. You're doing incredible work. And I'm so thankful for you and for the folks at 1819 and the work you do on this. So stay in the fight and keep us posted. If you see something else you want to jump on and talk about, you let me know. All right.
Thank you for having me, Phil, and God bless. Hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Yep, you too. Thanks.
And also,
yeah,
everybody just hug your children and love on them a little more, because these kind of stories really put things into perspective, even for those of us who don't live anywhere near Bibb County.
Yep, absolutely. You're right. Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you to Erica Thomas from 1819 News. You can find her stories at 1819news.com. I've got several of them stacked up right here, but I don't think I need to even cover them now because she did so well. She wrote them. She investigated them. She was the first reporter in the state of Alabama to find out about this stuff. She began uncovering it before they even had the unfolding of the indictments. But I want to make sure I make one more point before I go to the break, and that is this, that is not a reflection of Bibb County. And I think that needs to be said. That is not a reflection of the good salt of the earth people from Bibb County, Alabama. Because there's going to be people out there right now who have connections with or maybe in right now in Bibb County, Alabama. And the people of Brent, that is not them. These are criminal acts by some of the most evil, depraved people you will ever look at. And if you see their picture, you can't even feel sorry for them, because they don't even look like they try to take care of themselves, much less anybody else. But I'm saying, that's not Bibb County, Alabama. What happened is a depraved act of an isolated group of people, but it still happened. And we have to keep our eyes wide open, our heads on a swivel, see something, say something. And now we'll take a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And I said, well, I'm also looking at the reserve unit. He said, all I'm telling you is if you stay, because I had enough time on my enlistment to stay and take a slot to green team. He said, you're going to take somebody's slot. And that changed how I viewed it. Mm-hmm. He said, so either decide to get out and go reserve or whatever it is you're going to do. He said, or stay and be ready to sign on for another, 4 or 6 years, whatever the requirement was, because you're going to get a slot to green team. And I was like, okay. I talked to my wife about it, and we decided, hey, let's get out. Let her finish nursing school. It would only be 2 years. I could do the reserve stuff, and then I would get back in, and we would try to, go to a team for a little while, then screen and go to development group. So that was the process. And so I had all of that. I was selected for development group. It's in the eval paperwork, that I had that. I was top physical performer at Team 3 at the time, right? And it had all my, all of that stuff that I had done, right? Past that that screener, which is not hard. It's a 3-mile run, in like 22 minutes, and a half-mile ocean swim and whatever, 10 minutes, and I had whatever stuff it was. Right, I met all those metrics and superseded those metrics. Done really good at it, and that's what they actually used that against me to say, "Oh no, see this guy, he can perform. He just can't be a SEAL because when you're insulin dependent, you can't jump, you can't dive, and so I couldn't be a SEAL." I was like, "Well, I don't want to be in the regular Navy." And that was kind of the back and forth. So SOCOM Carry Coalition assigned an attorney who worked pro bono. He's out of Birmingham, former Marine sniper. I won't use his name. He's asked me not to use his name on the air and stuff, but he's done this for a lot of veterans. Good guy. And he helped take care of me and helped me get my VA, my retirement IDs, my like TRICARE for my family, or I forget what it's called, but it's TRICARE essentially, right? And get all that process, and that was about 1.5 years.
Do you have any idea how much of that time when you were still on active duty you might have been toting that type 1 diabetes around with you?
They think at least 1 year because
Really?
they can do blood work back that far, and to confirm that I had it on active duty. So the way it worked, I could have been in the regular Navy, but I couldn't be a SEAL. You can't be a SOCOM or JSOC operator and be insulin dependent, which I get now. I understand that. I understand why. And so they took me through that process. So even though I was out of active duty as a, what's the word, like a dishonorable discharge out of active duty, no issues, re-enlistment code, all of that stuff, and I was in the reserve side, everything was good, I could not maintain my SEAL status. So
you said you didn't mean dishonorable discharge.
No, honor. Oh,
honorable
yeah,
discharge.
no, honorable. I'm sorry, not dishonorable discharge. A regular. I was a good discharge.
I don't want
honorable,
that to be recorded.
No. Honorable discharge. It wasn't anything bad. I could re-enlist. Like I had everything I could do. I just couldn't be a SEAL. So the way it works, I could not retire from naval service, but I could also no longer be a SEAL.
So how is this? I mean, you're obviously still a pretty robust dude. I mean, you're still working out. You're still living large. You're still doing law enforcement stuff.
Yeah.
How is that physical situation impacted your life?
I mean, it's not obviously impact. I got these stupid insulin pumps and stuff on my arm, which this is pretty amazing. It's funny going in. You see the guys without legs and stuff with prosthetics and everything. I had testicular cancer, and I have a prosthetic, nuts. And my buddies say you're one nut from a Princess Warrior.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
That came from something in the teens, but I was already at that when they found that, I was already had all my 100% VA, retirement IDs, all that stuff. So there was nothing else to gain, but I still had to go and have that surgery and go through that process.
Wow.
But so I have prosthetic there, and these two things are considered prosthetics in the VA because it's a prosthetic pancreas, an insulin pump, and a blood sugar thing, and it runs to my phone right here. So you can see, like, it's pretty cool what we have, to take care of it. See, it runs my blood sugar on my phone right there, so it runs that. My insulin pump, is another app on the phone that hey, deliver insulin as I need it. And so these are considered prosthetics because they're outside of normal.
Kidding.
Yeah, so I'm in there, and you're looking at dudes that don't have 2 legs, and I'm like, I got more prosthetics than you, bro. He's sitting there without legs, and so it's so it has impacted because
one nut in a pump.
One nut in a pump, man. I mean, that's it, dude. So I say all that to say it has impacted, how I live my life. I can't deploy like I used to. Like even contract work, I couldn't be a federal agent at the time. Now I'm a federal TFO with Homeland Security, but I couldn't be a full-bore federal agent because I was looking to get picked up by the U.S. Marshal Service when all this happened and rolled out. But you couldn't be insulin dependent. I think they've changed that now, where it's okay, but it did limit tremendously what I could do.
So being straight up about it. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, so just in case you missed it, if you're down that way or you live in Bibb County or you just want to go down and be a part of supporting the community, because listen, it's bad enough when you find out about this in big cities, but when you're in a small town, everybody sees and knows everybody, right? And that is absolutely the case. So The small town of Brent, Alabama, in Bibb County is, and Erica said it, has been rocked by this. Like, it's not only disgusting. Now you find out it's right down the road, and you just can't help but think, did I see something at a gas station I didn't pay attention to? Was there somebody in the grocery store that I should have looked twice at? Was that little girl in the restaurant who looked at me when I was waiting the tables, did it mean something? And so I know that small town right now is just rocked by this because they all know each other. I mean, look it up if you would mind, Brent, Alabama population, and see what it comes up. But it's not. It's a small town. I mean, I bet you it's going to be a population somewhere around 5,000. What do you think?
2,600.
2,600, half that.
That was in 2023.
Okay, so that's a town. That's not a city. That's going to be a Class 6 municipality. But so, the bottom line is this: there are 2 prayer vigils this weekend, and I love the fact that the mayor of Centerville said this is because they want to stand there with he called it their sister city, Brent. So he said it's strictly come as you are. There's no getting dressed up in your Sunday go to meeting clothes, none of that. But there's 2 prayer vigils. One is tomorrow morning in Centerville, Alabama, at the Friendship Lodge number 83, which is a Masonic lodge. I believe she said it's in downtown. And then the other one is going to be at the historic Centerville Presbyterian Church at 6 p.m. on Sunday. So tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and on Sunday at 6 p.m. The first one is at the Masonic Lodge in downtown, the Friendship Lodge, and the other one is in the Centerville Presbyterian Church. Small towns, big prayers. So you guys think about that. If you want to support them, there you go. Those are the opportunities. When we get back, I'll wrap this topic up, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. You're welcome to text in. Some of y'all are already there, and I'm pretty sure we're forming a posse, and a lynch mob is forming as we speak. And I'll tell you, as much as I'm not going to ever advocate for mob violence, but this is the kind of thing that makes street hangings look like it's supposed to be okay. But I definitely want justice. If they weren't involved and they've been swept up in the indictments, then I hope that they're excused from this and they're innocent and they'll get to move on with their lives. But if they were any tangentially involved, even if they had just knowledge and did nothing, I want justice for these little kids. Right here in Alabama. When we come back, I'll wrap it up, and I'll tell you, the Biden administration, going back to that thing about 300,000 kids, allegedly they put safeguards in place. They did? Yes, allegedly they had even a hotline where kids could call. Kids. They gave you a phone number on the way out the door, which to me just smacks of just like indifference. Here's my number, kid. Let me know if I can do something for you. That's how many times have you seen somebody drop a card and go, here's my card. Give me a call if I can help you. And they don't even mean it. That's the way this feels. And so we'll talk about how awful and ill run that program was. Text line is 833-687-4448. And that's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Knowing how you've lived and the way you've lived, I mean, was there any bitterness? You ever question God on it?
No, not for this. No, I never questioned God on this. I mean, it's my honest opinion. If I would have lasted, and me and my wife talk about this and laugh, because she probably would have been in the same boat. Her school was paid for. Her nursing school was paid for here. I would have lasted about 6 months out of the SEAL teams, and I would have jumped right back in. And I would have, probably hit a deployment and gone over and screened and tried to go to development group. Now, I might not have made it through Green Team, and I was a sniper school instructor when I got out, so I was selected for sniper school and even checked in with Monty over there. Monty LeClaire was the chief at the time, and that was about the time I got out and all this happened right then. So I could have gone back to sniper school as an instructor. Like I probably wouldn't have made it 6 months. And would have been back in the SEAL teams.
So I'll be honest with you. I think you just said a ton to people who might be watching this that have setbacks.
Yeah.
I think without meaning to, you literally said a ton to people. But if you had to like turn and face somebody who's facing setbacks and say, here's how I view things, what would you say?
The Lord just used that direct to keep me out of what my natural inclination was, because he had a different route for me. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's what me and my wife believe.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been back in the teams. She would have been here going through school. We would have been apart. We wouldn't have had we had a miscarriage on our first child, and then we wouldn't have had our second child. So we wouldn't have had either of those that we dealt with. We wouldn't have met the people that we met. Our life would look different, and I very well could have been in. I could have been with any number of my buddies who have died between now and me being out. Now we look at that, and I would gladly take their place. Don't get me wrong on that. I would take any of my buddies' place who have died, but my wife might not be as willing to give me up. My daughter's definitely not. And so it would have changed our life tremendously.
There was a song that reminds me. I'm chasing a rabbit again briefly, but there was a song that came out. Amy Grant, one of the early leaders of contemporary Christian music, she had a song called "Angels Watching Over Me," and it was all about the things you can't see them happening, and you have no idea they happened to prevent the things that could have happened.
Yeah,
and like the reckless car that ran out of gas before it came my way is one of the lines in the song.
Or I would have. Let's say I would have stayed in. Let's say I would have stayed in, and I would have gone over to Green Team and gone through it. There's a good chance that this untreated, what I had untreated,
that's right,
would have shown up in the strenuous,
in the worst places.
6 months of selection process at Green Team, and it could have killed me. I mean, I could have. It would have been one of those things where you push through it, and you never get seen, you don't know what's going on, and you wind up dying because of it. Just on the training side. So again, I don't know what happened, why it happened, but whatever's going on in your life. Is it God directing you in a certain place? But then there's the other aspect of it. A lot of issues we have ain't got nothing to do with God. It's got to do with us doing the opposite of what God wants us to do, and that could be it as well.
All right, let's move into current day. So you get out, and I see both your businesses. You got the Shooting Institute, and you got Covenant Rescue Group. The Shooting Institute, I can look at it on paper and go, dude's got transferable skills. I mean, he comes off active duty to the teams, doing the things he did, and now he's training other people to do the things that his hard skills translate into pretty easily on the civilian side. And then there's Covenant Rescue Group. And you guys are doing an amazing amount of interdiction work and training law enforcement to interdict sexual offenders and traffickers and that kind of stuff. You talk about both of them, but I really too, I want to get down to how did Covenant Rescue Group happen? Whose idea? Whose mission mindset was that one to say we're going to do something in that arena?
It was probably my wife's more than anybody's, but the Shooting Institute started actually before I got out, and it's going through all this stuff. Me and a buddy of mine out of Indiana, Troy D. Hart, I mentioned him earlier. We started the Shooting Institute, and together, and he kind of ran it, and then the business became what it was when I got out. And the Lord blessed and grew. Did law enforcement training, then started doing DOD contracts, learned how to write DOD contracts, finished my MBA online kind of during that time frame, learned how to write contracts, met a bunch of people, met a guy named.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show, this show. Oh, man, I mean to say it goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I'm talking about all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure, and that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show every single day. We can see you on there. We see you. And you're live streaming the show every single day on places like YouTube, X, and Rumble, and Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. Live streaming, looking right into the studios. Thank you very much. And then, oh, by the way, you podcasters that catch it after the fact, we love you too. We appreciate you. Listen, y'all, we can't do it without y'all. We can't. You're the reason why we exist. So we love you. We appreciate you. We thank you very much. I'm going to get a bunch of text messages here in a minute because this one has y'all stirred up too, and I can tell. Let me do this, though. This whole thing about the 300,000 kids that Biden lost. I mean, like, he didn't even know. He was so busy trying to get his next pudding cup and taking a nap at 3 p.m. that did he even, there is either a reckless callousness or there's a recklessness and a disregard for human life in the way they treated this unaccompanied minors. But they did give him a hotline. There is that. What? Yeah. I mean, this is like second. I mean, so first of all, the Biden administration, you want to come to the United States? We got an app for that. Oh, aren't you technology based? And then, oh, you're a 7-year-old who had a phone number written on your arm, and some guy named Guido showed up to pick you up, and you don't know him, but we're going to give you to him anyway. Well, here's a phone number you can call if you have any trouble. Here, kid, take the phone number with you. That's how they got here, was with a phone number. And now you're going to send them off with somebody and give them another phone number? You're a kid. If you have any problems, give this number a call. We'll help you out. Well, they did. And Daily Caller has a piece. And I've got an audio clip, and I'll be calling up, this is audio 1, JP. I got an audio clip of the president and founder of a group called GUARD, which is a anti-human trafficking organization, specializes in trying to rescue migrant children and all. Her name is Allie Hopper. And Allie testified before Congress the other day, and then she was on the Ingram Angle with Laura Ingram, and she talked about this hotline, this phone number that the Biden administration gave kids and how ineffective it was. Play that sound clip.
I want to talk about how the border impacts this already huge problem in the United States and globally. So the Biden administration lost track of 300,000 children who crossed the border. You testified on Capitol Hill, I know, last week about a hotline that was given to these unaccompanied minors. You said 65,000 calls to this hotline number, I guess they had access to between, what was it, August 2024 and Inauguration Day? What happened with those calls?
Yeah, so it was a safeguard put in place by the previous administration, and it looked good on policy. It looked good on paper. But when the policy doesn't actually work, when what was implemented as a safeguard doesn't work, and you only have one person assigned to the hotline to manage and field all of these calls, that is what happens. And that is what results with 65,000 unanswered calls. One of the stories was that a child had called into the hotline reporting that men were coming into his room at night and they were touching him. That call went unanswered until this administration took office and acted very swiftly, conducted a home study, a welfare check, rescued the child, and the sponsor's been arrested. But there are numerous cases like this. And honestly, this would have never been uncovered until this administration took over and reviewed
Shut down the border. Shut down the border. And federal charges, conspiracy to child sex traffic charges, RICO charge, whatever you have to do. This should be so painful for these individuals they wouldn't even consider doing.
I completely agree with Laura Ingram. So yeah, I mean, how benign is that? How lame? How absolutely loser lame is that? I mean, that's like taking the field without your uniform on. They're just like, I don't know, we're just here, you know. We're going to go ahead and just take the L if you don't mind. They just gave kids a phone number, and then they put one person on the hotline. You had 300,000 kids, and you gave one person the job of answering the phone. And they missed 65,000 phone calls. They can tell because the system tells them how many times the phone rang and it wasn't answered. And then you got this piece, and I'm done. I know we're wearing it, but we're not wearing it out. This is important. It's not just sex trafficking. It's not just abuse, and it's not just losing them. It's also, there is slavery in the United States today. Where's the left on this? There's slavery in the United States. Did you know? Look at this. I got the article in my hand right now. Hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands. USA Today had an article in January of this year. 2 multi-billion-dollar meatpacking companies will each pay $4 million in fines after federal investigations revealed they have been illicitly employing dozens of children through staffing agencies in their plants. Kids, most of which have been migrant workers. Kids working in meatpacking plants, which is, by the way, a dangerous occupation. But there's also child labor laws. And then there's like the whole thing about they're illegal migrants. So you didn't check their status. You hired them and they were underage, and you put them to work anyway, and you probably paid them a subpar wage. And so, yeah, these companies are facing that. Do you remember, like, 3 weeks ago, they had the big raid on the pot farm out in California, arrested something like close to 400 illegals. 400. That's a big pot farm, by the way. But they arrested hundreds of illegal aliens in one place. They found a dozen minor kids there working on a pot farm, unaccompanied, by the way.
Yeah, not a peep from the left on the child labor.
Not a bit. None of it.
They're scaring the kids and families raiding a pot farm. They have no right to do that.
Oh my gosh. All right, listen, that's a lot. That's a lot. I don't mean to weigh down your Friday afternoon, but that's just a topic that I couldn't ignore it. We had to go with it. Let me get some text messages and start catching up. Reaching back earlier in the show, John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you. Said one of your best. Also, did you hear that 48 pastors were killed in a Russian plane crash? I did hear that. He says, by the way, JP, I'm expecting today to be one of your best ever sports segments.
No pressure?
No pressure. Shane from Lacey Springs says, speaking of God's children, Phil, they rang the bell for my beautiful granddaughter, Ivy, today at Children's Successful Transplant. Happy Friday. Shane, that is awesome. Give me some applause for that, and maybe even a hallelujah. How about that? That's just good. Praise God for that. Little Ivy. So little Ivy, just to update you guys, this is last Wednesday, I believe it was. Shane from Lacey Springs texted in and said, would y'all please pray for little Ivy? No, I take it back. It was Tuesday. And she was in the middle of a heart transplant while we were on the air at 9 months old, y'all. 9 months old. And she's doing awesome. So they rang the bell from her, which I believe means that everything is done and she gets to go home. That's praise God. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate you letting us know. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville. Tom with all the kids says, when people ask why I have so many kids, I tell them I can't be a Christian and not go where God calls me. He's called to be a daddy. Thank you, Tom. By the way, Tom has a ton of kids. Remind me again. How many?
I believe it was 17.
Oh my gosh.
I think 10 of his own and 7 adopted. I think something like that.
Tom with all the kids. That's why he's called Tom with all the kids. Dustin from Hillsborough says, as you know, Phil, I also was a young life leader back in Cincinnati. Thank you very much. Said I also work with kids that were put in alternative to juvenile school or juvenile jail. Even though the two groups were worlds apart in every way, they were all the same in how my heart would break for their lives. At the same time, to see them come to a new life made the tough stuff worth it. Yeah, it does. It does. It absolutely does. I went from working in that treatment center with kids who had addictions and behavioral disorders and abuse and psychological disorders. I went from there to working in full-time ministry because I felt like I was being told to heal kids from the outside in, and I believe that true healing comes from the inside out. So I went into full-time ministry from there, and I still saw messed up kids. They just weren't in a treatment center. Jamie from Pulaski, Alabama said there's a special place in hell for these animals. Yes, there is. Richard from Madison says, this story just got sicker and sicker. In this case, I would have no problem with instant justice. There you go. Mark from Huntsville says the heinous nature of this crime should be a wake-up call to every American about the dangers of human trafficking. Yes, it should, Mark. And that's why I was saying a minute ago, it's important that we see something, say something. It's not that we see, a demon under every rock. It's not what I'm saying. There are good people too, obviously. But we need to be aware of the fact that evil exists and be able to see it and go, uh-oh, that's not right. I need to check on that. And then just do your part. Brand spanking new texter in the text lines. Michael from Decatur says, first time texter, long time listener concerning the Bibb County. The men who hurt those children need okay. And he just basically advocates for putting them out of our misery. And I'll leave it there. Thank you, Michael. Glad you're in the text lines. Paul from Athens, Alabama, says, my guess is that the children were not from Brent. I don't know that for a fact, although there is talk that one of the people involved was a parent of the children. So I don't know how that plays out yet, Paul. Penny from Athens says, Phil, child sexual abuse is running rampant, it seems. We've had 2 cases in 2 days in Athens, and we need public hangings. Yep. Convict them, hang them, right there in the public square. Joe from Tennessee says, the evil in Bibb County is why the phrase, they needed killing was invented. Okay, I guess I'm getting a lot of this right now. I better start reading these texts before I read them out loud. The show does not advocate for vigilantism, although we do understand what you mean. Al from Athens says, after hearing the story, I don't know if there's enough millstones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'll start. You
start screening for me. Okay.
Sorry.
Jeff from Athens. Can I read that one?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey, Phil, I said all the garbage in the political world aggravates me. However, the 300,000 missing children that Biden lost truly angers me. I said I have 5 precious grandchildren. if I fire Princess grandchildren, if I caught someone harming one of them, this big old boy might open something up on that perpetrator that might get me in serious trouble. I feel the same way about any innocent child. As you say, stay vigilant, people. There it is. Tom with all the kids again, by the way, says also kudos and thanks to the kids, who
Kids to love.
Thanks, Kids to Love, who provided the scholarship for my son. Okay, thank you. I just realized that should have been capitalized as Kids to Love. Gotcha. And then Jamie from Pulaski, Alabama says it's Jamie from Pulaski, Tennessee. So you've corrected that, I see.
I have, yes.
All right. Jamie, we like Pulaski, Tennessee too. So thank you very much. All right, there you go. I'm taking a break. We're taking a break, coming right back. We're going to wrap up this whole spiel, move on to other things, and then coming up top of the hour, we'll switch gears together, lighten things up, go to some JP on Sports. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Out of UAB who helped me write contracts and obtain some of my first prime contracts to the government, did a lot of subcontracts to JSOC and for the enablers that were supporting Delta and SEALs. And then finally got picked up for a few special forces units, just continued to grow. Like it wasn't just like, hey, we're doing some civilian classes. It went from a few civilian classes all the way into now. I'm back and doing training for the SEAL teams. A buddy of mine from SEAL Team 4 hit me up the other day, say, "Hey, can you run a concealed carry course for us if we bring you up sometime middle of the summer, depending on what funding looks like?" So I say that to say, the Lord just opened the doors and blessed TSI, and we were doing really well. The TSI, the Shooting Institute, started doing security stuff. DB8 is the Security Institute because they didn't like the word shooting in a lot of it with these schools and all. So we would write reports for schools. We would write reports for churches. We would look at their insurance policy, talk with insurance agents, get a riders on their policy to cover whatever exposures they had. You're familiar with some of that stuff with what you've done as an attorney. So a lot of it wasn't even the skill set that transferred over. It's just something we learned to do, something I learned to do in my MBA, write reports, and just started doing that with different schools and different organizations. And in that process, somehow got involved with anti-human trafficking work with Operation Underground Railroad, and from there did some work with them. From there, got involved in some more anti-human trafficking work with a ministry called Far Reaching Ministries, run by Wes Bentley out in California. And finally, my wife said, we had people just giving us money. I mean, like literally, when I say I got guys writing us checks for $10,000, $15,000, $5,000, and I was like, what do I do with this money these guys do? I give them an invoice for it from TSI? So I took it to my CPA. He said, y'all need to start a nonprofit.
Nonprofit, yeah.
My wife's heart was for it. She says, if I'm going to let you leave to do anything, this is what I want you leaving to go do. Because I still had options to go back to the agency to do work with them, the DIA or the CIA, different opportunities that presented themselves. Went and interviewed for a job up in D.C., and they said, hey, if you're willing to move here, you've got the position to be a blue badger, I guess is what they call them. And my wife was adamantly against moving to the D.C. area. So we just kind of stayed the course in what we're doing. The Lord opened the doors and said, if you're going to leave, if you're going to do these deployments and stuff again or go to different places, I'm down for this. We had kids at the time. And so that's kind of what got us into starting the nonprofit.
So both businesses still run concurrently?
Oh, they still run? Yes, sir, they do. They still run concurrently, yeah.
And do they compete with each other on a regular basis?
No, not at all, because, CRG was born out of TSI.
Okay.
Because we had to use TSI to fund it and do a lot of the work. Now CRG could probably run on its own, but the for-profit company, we have a lot of licenses and a lot of stuff that CRG uses that CRG can't have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Still maintain my law enforcement credentials at the time, and then we somehow tapped into stateside work, and that's what we've been doing ever since. And that was because of COVID in 2020 arena. Covenant Rescue Group's just a strict 501c3 nonprofit. Doesn't cost the agency anything. We run on donations and grants and all that stuff, but primarily a donor base, a grassroots effort to make sure that law enforcement agencies get the training they need to impact, in particular, sex trafficking, even more particularly child exploitation. So that's what we do with Covenant Rescue Group. TSI is just a normal for-profit company. We do, firearms, CQB, all that. So if I go work for an agency for TSI, they got to write me a check. And that's kind of how we work.
CRG, I mean, there's a murky subculture out there that bad things happen on a regular basis that a lot of the world doesn't even see. It runs under the table.
Yeah.
And you guys, and I know because you've been on my show a bunch of times, and you've also I see you in press releases all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the paper, seen a sting happen in so and so county or so and so state, and CRG was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You guys actually train, but you also assist. Am I correct?
Yeah, so it's you would be familiar with this. It's definitely a Green Beret type, model, or a ground branch type model, or something where you have a combat advisor overseas, and you might be working with the indigenous forces, and you're training them, teaching them what you want to do, and then you go hit a target with them. Well, you're very much involved. I'm still, strapped, got my heater and everything running in with the boys. It's just the boys are a bunch of, Yemenis guys, a bunch of Afghanis, a bunch of whoever they are, right? Afghan National Army, the commando mission, you have one operator, maybe two operators, and 10, good guy Mujahideen fighters, right? 10 Muj going in to take down this target. That's what we did. We do the same thing with local law enforcement. We have our team of individuals, which normally consist of about 10 folks total, that work with takes normally about 20 folks total from an agency.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Bulletproof influence, that's what I like to say. Speaking of bulletproof influence, we do have some of our limited run bulletproof influence highball glasses. If you haven't seen those, I encourage you to check them out. I love the fact that we had one of our listeners earlier just send in a picture of her actually taking a sip from her highball glass. It says bulletproof influence on it. So these are custom made for us by a company called Benshot. You see the glass, you'll know why their company called Benshot. But they make the glass and they engrave it with our Rightside Media logo, and it says bulletproof influence underneath it. So Rightside Media is our parent company. Obviously, Rightside Radio is the show, but Rightside Media is everything else, the podcasting and all of it together. And we sell merchandise on our website, rightsidemedia.org. But you go there, there's a shop tab. Go look at the shop tab, the merchandise, T-shirts, hats, all that kind of stuff. One of them is the highball glass, and it has a .308 round, a bullet, embedded in the glass. And I don't know how they do this, but they literally heat melt the glass and push the bullet in as if it was been shot but did not penetrate. Hence the been shot glass, but hence the bulletproof influence. Yes, indeedy. The highball glass. It's one of our top sellers on the merchandise. We still got hats and shirts and coffee mugs and all that kind of stuff too. So check it out. Rightsidemedia.org. Got to tell you guys too, shameless plug. While I'm in the middle of shameless plugs, let me just do another shameless plug. So Monday night, I will be in Madison at Movement Church for a town hall. So yes, indeed, I'd love to meet some of you. Come on out. The town hall has got, and JP's, you're way ahead of me. You just put it up on the screen. Thank you very much. But the town hall is being hosted by Moms for Liberty and myself. Another guy named Mark McEthrin from Huntsville has his group also that's going to be there. But also, one of the main things is I'm moderating a discussion with Jared Hudson, former Navy SEAL, one of our podcasters actually, who is running for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Tommy Tuberville. So if you want to meet Jared Hudson, that's the venue right there. So it's going to be in Madison at Movement Church, 6 p.m. this coming Monday. I'd encourage y'all to be there. Check it out. I'd love to meet you myself. Just come one, come all, no cost. Come as you are. Don't worry about, having to put on some kind of fancy digs. It's not going to be a big highfalutin event. It's going to be a great, fun, grassroots time to be together and talk about things that matter to people like Rightside Ruffians. I got a couple more text messages. Joe in Tennessee again. He says, President Reagan said it best, trust but verify. That's the case in everything. Indeed. Thank you, Joe. By the way, that's a quote that I can read on the air.
It's hard because it's like, I understand what.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's
totally.
Yeah.
I just, I bear the responsibility of having a microphone.
That's why it's important to say this guy thinks, this person from here thinks that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Caveat.
Yeah.
The opinions read.
Yeah.
Are not necessarily the opinions of the
opinions of our texters are independent of them. Yeah.
Thomas from Athens says 300,000 kids brought in this country by Biden and his minions to wind up only God knows where. Epstein and his abusive clients, and now Bibb County terror. All these exist at different levels, and they're being controlled by demons. I agree with that. I do. I think it's evil. I think it's absolute evil. All right, we're going to switch gears here in a few minutes. We'll come back from the next break, and I enjoy these segments. We're going to wind up doing some JP on sports. And JP, I want to foreshadow. I feel confident in saying there's going to be some Hulk Hogan somewhere in your JP on sports.
You would be correct. Yes.
Outstanding. Can I guess there might be some British Open?
Yeah, we'll briefly talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Can I guess that you're not going to talk about the Atlanta Braves?
no, there will be no Braves discussion there. I wish they'd give me something to talk about, but nonetheless, no.
Are you going to talk about things like Alabama flipping a 4-star?
No. If I did,
Really?
then we'd have to talk about it every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to let that slide. Real quick, Griffin from Tuscaloosa just checked it in. He says, now that Trump has signed an executive order to end homelessness, let's give companies incentive to work them and replace illegals. I like that idea, actually. I've thought about that too. What if could you incentivize companies to hire people who are homeless? By the way, I heard a pretty endearing story. I think it's true. Y'all can check me out if you know. Robin Williams, who we lost a few years back, just an amazing guy. Had a sense of humor like nothing I've ever seen. Had a mind that moved at warp speed at all times. I don't know how I don't know how his brain did what it did. But Robin Williams, the comedian, it is said that every movie set he ever worked on, he required the movie to hire homeless folks and give them a wage while he was on set working. And he would do that. And I've seen pictures of him with some that were allegedly some of those who came in off the streets and got work because Robin Williams had a heart for people. And he made sure that his contract specified you will have some people working the set who are getting a wage for just doing something, but it gives them some folding money for their pocket. I thought that was kind of cool. And I segue right off of Griffin for Tuscaloosa's text. All right, the text lines will be open. We'll be jumping into JP on sports here momentarily, but we got 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. And don't forget, we got our phone number back. So that's cool because it was being held hostage for like a month.
Yeah, text it or call it.
Text it
once
or
again.
call it.
So, yes.
And you'll get an automated message after which you'll get JP after JP on sports is over with.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, don't call in during JP on sports.
No, I mean, you're free to, but we won't answer it yet. I'll see you sitting there waiting for the segment to be over.
Good enough. All right, hour number 3 on a Friday afternoon coming up, you guys. I'm telling you right now, it's been a day. We're going to lighten the mood. We are. You know why? Because it's Friday. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Agencies will have more, and some agencies will have less, and we'll have to bring more people. But we train them on how to do it. Then we set up a live operation and show them that what we teach actually works, and that's what leads to arrest. Now, it is a training environment. So when they do a press release, we arrested 10 guys, let's say. We average about 10 per operation. That's the average across the year. Some will do 17 and some will do 6, but the average is 10 across the year. We do that operation with those local agencies. Out of that, they might get more cases. The feds might be able to adopt a case if they want to. So they'll still have more stuff they'll have to work on, and we'll follow up with them and see what they need help with. But the initial thing that we do is train them how to target people who are specifically looking to buy or sell kids for sex.
And then they can then do it on themselves for other options.
That's our goal. We want to work ourselves out of a job. There's 18,000 police jurisdictions, whether it's sheriff's office, municipality, whatever, across the nation. 3,100 sheriff's offices. We'll never hit all of those jurisdictions.
Been any one of those particular ops that sticks out in your mind as one that just like stayed with you, like you saw or understood?
No, not necessarily. I wasn't on this op in particular, but I mean, I was working it. One of our other guys was on it, and we set up the training and did it. But this guy, after they arrested him, showing up for a 14-year-old girl, they found that he had he had video and images of him having sex with his own 18-month-old daughter on his phone. So we ripped the phone. We had that. So now we have a child pornography production and distribution. And the feds adopted that one. Obviously, that's.
I hope he went away for a while.
Yeah, he did, and that's the only reason I can talk about that case because its disposition is over. I want to say it was dealt with probably 2 or 3 years ago.
So you help them actually build the case to make it
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're
admissible in evidence and everything else.
Yeah, so our goal was to teach them how to build a solid felony case. Let's use state of Alabama. That's where we're sitting, and it's easier for me to memorize. State of Alabama, we're looking for 13A6, 122, 124, traveling and solicitation of a minor with electronic device, and then 152, 13A6, 152 is our human trafficking charge. You were actually part of that when getting that legislation passed. Recently, a couple years ago, went down with a couple other representatives, Miss Donna Givens out of South Alabama, and got some wording in that legislation change to better help us utilize the human trafficking law for attempted human trafficking. Right, these individuals believe they're buying believe they're buying a 14-year-old, or let's say they're selling, a 12, 13, or 14-year-old to one of us. They believe they're going to sell a child. They're selling it to a law enforcement officer. We're able to roll those individuals on an attempted human trafficking now because we just changed the wording a little bit. So we work on the legislative side I don't believe in adding laws. I don't think we need to add anything. We just need to, use what we got. You're familiar with that as a legislator. And sometimes hone what we have.
Absolutely.
To make it match what we're trying to do. As technology grows, we've got to grow as well. So that's what we do. We work on the legislative side, and that end, we work with law enforcement, though, to train them how to successfully use the legislation we have in place to make successful felony cases against people that are buying or selling kids.
So between TSI and CRG, which one takes up more of your physical time?
Oh, CRG for sure.
Really?
Yeah, CRG for sure, which TSI still takes up a good bit of, my time. I still teach, but I got a bunch of guys that work for me there as well that I can put on a job and that can teach. And then some of the jobs I have to specifically go on, or there's a couple of guys I have that they have to specifically be involved. But other than that, TSI just it's pretty easy to keep running. I mean, it's pistol, carbine, CQB. It's what we do. A little bit of explosives every now and again, sniper stuff, but it's shooting, clearing, all that stuff. CRG is constantly morphing into a new thing. I'm going to go to a meeting here in just a few minutes when I leave here on another style of operation that we're working on, and we're going to fly out. We've been invited out to an agency that's doing this style of operation next week to see what they do, to see how we can implement that in our training for these other agencies that we're going to.
That's awesome.
So,
well, I would imagine, I mentioned a minute ago, has there been one that stuck with you? You talked about that guy. Does it make you want to hold your kids a little closer when you go home?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's I don't get emotional about much of anything, but I get emotional thinking about my kids and some of these individuals we arrest that think they're buying a kid. Some of these individuals that we arrest that are negatively impacting children around them, their lives. And, I think I would hope that somebody, if this was happening to my girls, if I was dead and this was going on with my girls, I would hope that somebody would help them in this process, would do it. I can't imagine, I can't imagine some of what I've seen happen to these children. Yeah. I can't imagine somebody willing to do that. But we live in a sin-fallen world. It's 100% human nature. It's sin. There's no there's a stupid country song. I hate it. It say I believe all people are good or something. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what I'm talking about, fellas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, maybe you can play that while I'm talking about it. All people are not good. That's actually the antithesis of what the Bible says.
Exactly.
None is righteous, no, not one. And this is literally the outcome of who we are, being able to be who we are as flesh, sin-filled humans. And the only thing that fixes it is the person of Jesus Christ.
It's flesh unchecked.
Flesh unchecked is always going to be a bad thing, and we see that happening. I see that happening in some of the darkest elements of society with what these guys do to kids and women too. Men are primarily a consumer. Anytime we roll women, they're generally speaking a distributor. They sell. Even grandmothers and mothers sell their own. Selling their kids.
So part of my eclectic resume, as we get towards the end here, but part of my eclectic resume is that I spent the first 10 years out of college working full time with kids in ministry and in counseling, and I worked in an adolescent treatment center for a period of that time. And every time I thought that I'd seen the worst that a world could do to a kid, another kid would come in and it'd be worse.
100%, man.
And you just got to stay in the fight.
That's right. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, just in closing. We've talked about a lot. I can see your heart. I can hear you talk about your family. I can hear you talking about your career, the things you care about, you're passionate about. But your little girls, if they had a chance, if God forbid something happened to you and 10, 15 years from now, they were able to watch this video, what would you want them to take away from it?
Dang, man, that's a heavy question. No, I mean, first and foremost, I want them to know that I love them, that anything that I do is in the person of Jesus Christ. That is the most important thing. If there's anything they can take away from their daddy, it's who you need to be in the person of Jesus. And hopefully the life that they've at least seen me live has been one that has elevated Jesus, not me, not my stories, not all this SEAL team stuff. All right, that's all cool. I want my girls to say, yeah, we're proud of who our daddy was, but pride comes before the fall. Don't be proud of daddy. Be proud of who daddy was in Jesus. Be proud of Jesus. And as Paul said,
it's solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Friday. And yes, we're changing gears. We need to. I think I need a shower after that whole last segment. But we are changing gears right now because on Friday afternoons, we set aside policy and politics and all the power plays, and we jump on into a segment we call JP on Sports, because those of y'all that don't already know, JP's like a guru on sports, like all things sports. Sports, he's got it. So we do a thing called JP on Sports with 2 rounds. The first calls the 3 and out. He does 3 top stories, 3 and out. And then come back to the next segment. It's called the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and a buzzer, and we go 2 minutes at a time. He's also got the best sound effect of everything we do in the show, courtesy of Auburn sorority girls. Hit it, man.
JP on Sports!
All right, JP on Sports, 3 and out. Number 1, what you got?
So we have a pretty substantial and a big executive order from President Trump that we've actually been waiting. I've been waiting for something like this to come. It's called the Saving College Sports Executive Order, which he signed on July 24th, so yesterday. And he had conversations with Nick Saban apparently about maybe creating a commission for college sports, and Saban kind of responded, said he doesn't know if that's necessarily required, but kind of gave Trump some guidelines on stuff that we should do. But this executive order, it prohibits third-party NIL, and it says this is word for word in the executive order, pay-for-play scenarios. So in other words, third parties that are separate from the school itself cannot pay players to go to a certain school and NIL. So that is a big one, I think. For example, if Nike or somebody, I'm just saying Nike, for example, wants to pay somebody to go to Oregon or something like that, it's supposed to prohibit that from happening. And then this new era of revenue sharing, it's also specifically aiming to protect women's sports and non-revenue sports and Olympic sports. So, we talked about this last week, I think, where not the revenue sharing era, the sports that don't necessarily bring in the big bucks like football, basketball, you probably lump baseball in there, probably on the lower end, like the swimming sports, track and field sports, sports like that, they're at risk of getting cut because the school's got to make a business decision. They can't afford to provide money to the schools that aren't bringing in money.
Yeah.
But this is specifically, it says collegiate athletic departments with greater than 125 million in revenue during the 2024-2025 athletic season should provide more scholarship opportunities in non-revenue sports than during that said season. So in other words, you have to produce more scholarships in those sports than last year. So hopefully this protects those sports. That I don't want to see any sports like that go away because of this new era of college sports. But I will say this needs congressional action. This legally doesn't do anything. It kind of just sets the framework and guidelines moving forward, which is helpful, which is very nice. But there's a SCORE Act in Congress right now that needs to be passed that will pretty much protect schools from having to identify players or student athletes as employees. This is actually being co-sponsored by Shamari Figures from our Alabama delegation. I think that would help a lot. But this executive order is a good start. It's a good framework and good guidelines to set.
Has Tuberville commented on that executive order yet? Do you know?
He has. He's spoken highly of it. And Saban, actually, I got a clip. If you want to play, it's like 20 seconds. Saban last night was on Fox News talking about this and what he thinks about the executive order. So I'll play that real quick.
Go for it.
Trump's executive order takes a huge step in, providing the educational model that has always been what we've sort of tried to promote create opportunities for players, male and female alike, revenue and non-revenue, so that they can have development as people, students, and develop careers and develop professionally if that's what they choose to do.
There's actually a part, it wasn't in that clip, where he said that colleges shouldn't be sponsoring professional teams, which is that's pretty much what it was boiling down to.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we got a professional team over here. You'll wear our logo on your jersey, but you're kind of your own entity.
Yeah.
So I think this will help protect that moving forward. And but like I said, we need Congress to act as well.
All right, that's cool. And by the way, it was nice of Saban to sit in the 1970s grandmother's basement with the wooden paneling.
He's got a wooden vibe going on. If you go to his office, his office was all wood too. It's interesting.
All right, that's one. What's two?
So I don't know if you saw this, but the WNBA All-Star game, we had a stunt from the players where they came out and wore shirts that said, "Pay us what you owe us."
Yes.
Which
means that they owe us money now.
I was just about to say. So it's kind of ironic because in a league that has not produced a profit ever in its existence is now coming out and saying that they need more money actually. And okay, so if you want to have the argument, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of like the WNBA budget, but if you want to make an argument that they should maybe be getting a higher percentage of the revenue they bring in, I guess that's a separate argument. But it is just rich and not ironic. It is ironic for players to be in a league that has not made a profit and wouldn't even survive if it wasn't for the NBA giving it money, a lot of money, for them to now come out wearing shirts to say, you better pay us what you owe us. It's like, okay,
this is like Starbucks baristas going on strike to me.
Yes, and it's funny. Somebody actually made a meme and photoshopped the shirt Caitlin Clark wore. It said, "Pay me NBA money," which, to be fair, she is making NBA money with her sponsorships and such. But I don't know. I think it's indicative of where their mindset is as a whole. I don't think they understand how money works. Like, you actually have to make a profit on things to be a successful business. And if we're going by that metric, then that means the WNBA has never been a successful business because it never brought in a profit. Now that could change. I think Caitlin Clark, but not only Caitlin Clark, I think Angel Reese is doing a good job of bringing publicity to the sport. You got other players like Paige Beckers and these up and coming players. I think they're bringing a lot more eyes to the sport, but let's not be mistaken. Caitlin Clark is the main player responsible for all the new eyes. So hopefully this will get better moving forward in terms of the money that's coming in, but it's just totally out of touch, and there's no self-awareness on the WNBA players' role for them to come out wearing those shirts. It's like, come on, like, I want the WNBA to do well, but also you need to bring in money to get money. That's how it works. But I just thought that was quite interesting.
Meanwhile, isn't Angel Reese about to like foul out for the season? I mean, aren't they talking about suspending her for like all her flagrant fouls and
I
stuff
don't know.
like that?
I wouldn't be surprised.
She's a street rules player. She's out there wearing a T-shirt that says "Pay me more."
But I mean, she's good for the sport as well. We kind of need a heel in the WNBA. So Caitlin Clark
just mix WWF and WNBA.
Caitlin Clark is like the baby face. You need a good heel. So yeah, I think it's going to get better, but it was still pretty rich to see that.
All right, that's two. You got about 2 minutes for a three. What you got?
I got to give an ode to the Hulkster, the last but certainly not least. Hulk Hogan passed away yesterday, but we gotta give him his flowers for what he did to not just professional wrestling, but culture as a whole in the 80s. I mean, he was an American icon for what he did and what he represented. But I saw this crazy stat. I had to actually double check it and look it up to make sure I wasn't getting trolled. This is true. So apparently Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, their wrestling match, WrestleMania 3, apparently had 33 million people watch it on television.
Really?
33 million.
Wow.
You think that's more than all of the major sports all-star weekends in 2025 combined. So this was, I mean, that not only Hulk Hogan, but Andre the Giant as well. They represented something much, much bigger than just, wrestling. I mean, you look at Hulk Hogan, he is America. And you look at what he did at the RNC too, giving that speech, ripping off his shirt in support of President Trump.
At 70 years old.
70 years old. That's correct. But I've also enjoyed thoroughly seeing all the classic Hulk Hogan matches that have been posted on Twitter for me to watch. I watched one last night of him and the Ultimate Warrior. But it also has been given a conversation of people giving their wrestling Mount Rushmores. I would say, Hulk Hogan's got to be at the top. Hulk Hogan's got to be one. I would also say The Undertaker's got to be on there.
Oh yeah.
I think John Cena has got to be on there as well. And then it's kind of a split between Stone Cold and The Rock. I got to go Stone Cold Steve Austin on there as my Mount Rushmore. I don't know how many wrestling fans we have out there want to provide us their Mount Rushmore, but I think it's wide, across the board. Hulk Hogan sits at the top, and it's very deserved. The world of not only just professional wrestling, but sports entertainment as a whole would not be where it is without Hulk Hogan. So rip, and he needs his flowers. He deserves his flowers. I've been happy to see all of the flowers he has gotten across the board the last couple of days.
Accolades everywhere.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, man. That was 3. Wow, that went fast. All right, I'll tell you what, jump into a break. We'll take the break, come back for round 2 of JP on Sports. We call it the 2-minute warning. I've actually got a timer, and we got a buzzer, and he's got 2 minutes per. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I hope that they can mimic me as I mimic Christ. That's my hope. That's what I want them to know. I love them and live in Christ. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for what you do.
Hey, thank you. Hey, man, you had to ask me that dang emotional question at the end.
Hey, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Listen, check out our YouTube channel. Find us at Rightside Media. We're also on all of our... and going through getting ready to sit down with you today, and I've heard your story before, but I've never heard all of your story before.
Sure.
But you didn't just go to prison. You were on the run for a while, and
Sure.
then they caught you swinging on a rope out the window trying to get away from a drug bust.
Yeah.
And I am of the understanding that at some point, Dog the Bounty Hunter was offered the opportunity to track you down, and he declined.
Yes, and I don't think he declined. I don't think he based off of. Well, so I'll just tell the story. That's
You
what
have
we
to,
do.
now
That's
that
what we
I've
do.
asked
We have to
about
tell
it.
stories. Yeah. So here I am. I've now racked up 6 felonies. That 6th felony was the doozy. Okay, and the 6th felony was, I was already out on bond. I was already on probation, and I'd been up for 3 or 4 days. Found out one of these guys who had informed the cops about some legal activity that I was involved with. Found out that he had just come into some money, and he owed me money, and he also narked on me, right? And so in that world, you don't do that. Those are the rules, okay? You don't do that. If you want to play in this society, you don't do that. Now, a lot of people did, but there was an enforcement mechanism called me, okay? And if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to hurt you. That was the way it worked. And he wasn't the only one that I did that to, but he was the one that ended up telling the cops again. So I went to his house. I'd been up for 3 days, strung out on meth, pound on his door. He answers the door. I said, he's like, hey, man, what's going on? I just immediately said, why'd you tell on me? And I didn't tell on you. I walked into his house, pushed him. Why'd you tell on me? I didn't tell on you. And I just started to beat him relentlessly. And the guy that I was with, so the way that it reads in the charges, and it's because they only wanted me to go down. They didn't care about the other guy that was with me. I was their target, okay, for the cops, law enforcement. I was the one running all these drug rings and theft rings and motorcycle theft rings and all this stuff. So they were after me. And I wasn't going to tell on the guy that was with me, but this is what actually happened versus what if you read the articles online and the charges and stuff. I was tasing him and beating him and tasing him with a taser and beating him, trying to get him to admit that he told on me. Well, the guy that was with me had a blackjack, which is it's not makeshift, like you can buy them. Yeah. It's got like a mechanical spring inside of it with a heavy piece of lead with leather wrapped around it. Yeah. And he hit him square in the forehead with it. Boom, his head explodes. Blood goes everywhere. Was not the intention of that visit, okay? My intention, I actually was friends with the guy and liked the guy, but he had broken the rules. And so I was in there to make sure that he understood that you don't do this. The guy I was with cracked his head open. Blood went everywhere. And I'm like, well, at this point, we're done, okay? This is over. And after he got hit in the head with that, he admitted that he told on me. That happened, but that was not the intention of this meeting was to go that serious and that far, but it did. And once it did, I just started grabbing computers and anything that was of value. I told his brother, I said, look, if you guys don't pay us, pay me the money that you owe me, I'm going to be back and that's going to be you. And I walked out. And so they hit me with attempted murder, aggravated robbery, and extortion. That night I got arrested again.
That's go-away charges right there.
Those are go-away charges, yeah, for a long time. And it was my 6th felony. Right. So my 6th time I've been arrested and charged in separate cases. And so I got arrested that night. I went to court basically, and they dropped the attempted murder down to first degree because it didn't fit. And so my arraignment, I don't know what they call it. You're a lawyer. I'm not. Although after being in prison for a little while, you actually kind of turn into one. But they dropped it to first degree assault. And so I was charged with first degree assault, aggravated robbery, and extortion, and a slew of other things. But those were the heaters. And so I'm in there for 2 weeks, and I get bonded out again. And so now I'm out on several $100,000. No, I think it was like $135,000 worth of bonds, if I remember correctly.
Who posted bond?
There's so many rabbit trails I could go all the way down. I just don't know how interesting they are. There's this girl, I think her name was Lisa, that she was just infatuated with me and thought the world of me. And she went and used a credit card to buy a bunch of Xbox 360s that were out at the time, and then sold them and got the money to bond me out.
No kidding.
No one's ever got that story, Phil. You're the first that got that story.
Scoop.
That's that question. There you go. But yeah, I ended up bonding out, and knew immediately that if I go to court, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to court, which now makes me a fugitive because I missed my court date. Right? I'm on the run. And the plan was, I had a friend, Spider. He and I were supposed to.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, we're on this gig we call JP on Sports, and we're in round number 2, which means I got to get to my stopwatch because this is where we do it with a buzzer and a timer, and he's got 2 minutes per. It's called the 2-minute warning. So, JP, 2-minute warning. Are you ready? Go.
We got some reports in this new era of conference realignment and college football, but all sports as a whole. Apparently, North Carolina is aiming to leave the ACC to join the SEC in the near future. And this isn't apparently the exit fee for the ACC is going down to $75 million after Florida State sued on behalf of that. And Clemson is also being reported as potentially leaving the ACC to join the SEC. And can I just say,
can everybody be in the SEC?
Apparently, we got USC and UCLA in the Big Ten, and we're just in an era where nothing makes sense in college. Nothing makes sense in college football anymore. It seems like, but yeah, I can't express enough how much I don't like this. I don't like and UNC being in the SEC. Clemson, you can kind of make a claim for that, but
we got enough Tigers.
Yeah, that is true too. I don't know. Maybe I'm a traditional college football enjoyer. I don't like seeing all these, new teams flooding the traditional, conferences. Just bring back the Pac-12 too, and make this. Everything's about money in college football now, and this is just another example of that. I understand Bill Belichick is now the coach at UNC, and you want him to be in the prime time of the SEC. So I can understand that, even though I don't think Bill Belichick will last more than like 2 or 3 years there. I can understand it from that standpoint, but just come on, this is nonsense in my opinion. Why does UNC need to join the SEC other than just, money and TV rights and all of that? It's just, we're going to have 2 mega conferences of the Big Ten and the SEC any day now.
That's what we're going to have.
And it's so unfortunate. I don't know. I may be too traditional minded. I may not be, understanding all the nuances in this. I mean, although I understand the arguments, I don't like it. I think it's nonsense.
The BCS is going to be SEC North versus SEC West versus SEC South versus SEC East.
I saw somebody make a good troll too about how they don't want UNC joining the SEC because it would bring down the basketball in the conference.
Oh, wow. There's the buzzer. All right. I got to reset the clock. Yes, it's funny.
Yeah.
Go.
So are we getting the Redskins name back? Because apparently Trump is trolling on True Social again about bringing back the Redskins name.
He is.
Let's just, I'll say first that the reason they changed it in the first place was obviously, ridiculous. And the original, Indian group that wanted the Redskins name in the first place did not support it getting changed. And actually, there's some members of the Native American community actually producing legislation saying we want the name changed back to the Redskins.
They're good with it.
I'll just say I don't think it's going to happen. However, I think it's important that it is happening because, I've talked about this before about the culture shift in the sports world, and we saw a decrease in teams, participating in pride events. We've seen other stuff across the board of, de-woking sports. But it is important to also call out how ridiculous it was in the first place. Last week I talked about how the All-Star game was stolen from Atlanta and how Dave Roberts He was like, "Duh," had no response to when he was pressed about it. I think that calling people out and holding them accountable for how dumb it was in the first place could prevent it happening again. And there's still Indian names out there. The Braves are one. The Braves survived it somehow, although the Indians and the MLB did not survive it. We got the Guardians and the Commanders now, which are lame, completely lame names. And the Chop somehow survived with Florida State and the Braves. So hopefully those don't go on the chopping block next. But although I don't think the name's going to get changed back, I think it's important for the culture war, for there actually to be a push from not just the president, but the Indian groups in the DC area who are like, hey, that wasn't cool. Just so we weren't for that. So who knows? There's a new stadium potentially being built, and there's some people claiming that Trump may, not want to give them federal funding until they change it back. I don't think that's going to happen, but
there it is. All right. That was good, man. And I missed the Redskins, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Restart the clock. You got time? Yes, we do. Go.
Well, Scotty Scheffler did win the British Open last week to everyone's expectation. How demoralizing is it, too, by the way, that him giving that speech about how golf doesn't fulfill him and all that. And then he just goes on, I'll just beat you by 4 strokes anyways. Not have a reaction after I make the final putt either. He's just the best in the world by far now. And it's actually a crazy stat. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the amount of time it took Tiger Woods to get from his first major to his 4th major win was the exact same to the day time it took Scotty to get from his 1st to 4th major win. I've seen a lot of people comparing Scotty to Tiger. I think it's a little bit early to do that. Okay, Tiger is by far the greatest golfer ever. However, it is pretty clear Scotty Scheffler has removed himself from the rest of the field by a large margin. But now next, we got the Ryder Cup coming up in September. And, this is where the Americans go up against the Europeans in a very entertaining, match. And it's also entertaining, too, because you see sort of the rivals in the American, side of things sort of come together. But also some of the best in the world, like Bryson DeChambeau, and who is in the Live now will be teaming up, with people like Scotty Scheffler. You got other guys in there like Justin Thomas and such going up against Rory McIlroy and other European great golfers. This will be coming up in late September. So, now that we got the best golfer in the world, obviously with Scotty Scheffler, I'm looking for a big American win in the Ryder Cup. We got to have it. American win in the Ryder Cup, especially, with how Scotty Scheffler's been playing. I think the Americans will come up with the win on that, but we need Scotty Scheffler to do what he does. So,
well, Scotty Scheffler tends to do what he does.
He does, yeah. Although golf doesn't fulfill him, apparently.
And he did have the most heartwarming end to an Open when his family.
He did when his son came out on the green. It is great.
Good stuff.
He doesn't have much of a reaction until he gets with his family and celebrates. So it is rewarding to see a golfer have that perspective.
And there it is. And how much time you got? You got good? Are we good to reset the clock? You got about 30, 40 seconds?
20 seconds, yeah.
Take it. What do you got?
We did see a big retirement in UFC this last week. Dustin Poirier hung up the gloves. It was his retirement fight. He went out on a loss, but it was still great. He was fighting in his hometown of New Orleans, so he was able to get his flowers. He had been fighting since he was 17 years old, so it's been a long time fighting in the UFC there. So I was glad to see him, although he didn't go on to win, like I said, get the flowers that he deserved. And he'll be back home. He had 3 shots at the title, 4 shots actually, I believe. Was not able to get it, but still nonetheless one of the greatest MMA fighters ever. So I'm glad to see Dustin Poirier get the proper recognition.
Perfect. There it is. JP on Sports. You took it all the way to the wire, buddy. All right, listen, that's it. We do it every Friday. In the meantime, we're coming up on the final half hour. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back.
And Spider is a very bad dude, like very, very bad. Hispanic guy who's part of the Sereno gang. And we were supposed to go down to California with his people and then go into Mexico. That's what they do on the movies. We felt like it was a good idea. Only problem is we never got around to doing it. And so I ended up on a number of occasions, the cops ended up finding where I was, but they didn't have a warrant and they weren't sure. And so there's a couple different ways that I was able to get away when I was on the run.
Yeah.
And that infuriated them. Okay.
This is how long? Like several weeks?
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks. Yep. And so you had, at the time, there was Officer Mork and Officer Gold Branson, which were with Colorado Springs Police Department. But then you had Sergeant O'Driscoll, who was the head of the Fugitive Task Force and Crime Prevention Unit.
You still remember their names?
Yes, I do. And there's a story in that too. This would have been 2007.
Oh.
Yeah, and so Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, not only was he on the fugitive task force, he was part of the crime prevention unit. So even before I was a fugitive, both Morgan Goldbranson and Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, they were dedicated to bringing me in and taking me down. Okay, because of the threat that I posed in running these crime rings or whatever, and but the crime prevention unit and fugitive task force. It was ran by Sergeant O'Driscoll. They ended up, they have like unlimited budget, work with the feds, all this other stuff. And so they were on me. And so I got away a couple times. And finally, June 19th, 2007, I am in what we deemed my safe house. And Spider had given me a nylon rappelling rope to tie to the bottom of this 70s retro recliner. And he's like, if you got to get out, you go, because the front door there's a hallway in these apartments. And then you go from the hallway into the apartment. And the only way out would be down the window, out the window and down on the ground, and it's third story. And I'm like, I'm never going to use that. That's crazy, but I did. Every 18 inches, I tied a double knot, so I could climb like that. And, I woke up June 19th, 2007, not thinking anything, just another day of being on the run. And I was in my living room.
One of your interviews, you said you woke up at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it was that afternoon. And it was that afternoon. I was again smoking weed, doing drugs, and your circadian rhythm gets a little off in that situation. And so, woke up that afternoon. It's the weird thing that you remember. I was cooking bratwurst and watching the Chappelle Show, and I looked out the window. And the way that it's set up, there's an apartment building here. And every year I go to Colorado Springs and I take my family. And this year I took my 15-year-old son, and he's heard me tell this story a million times. And I'm like, here's the bill. He's like, this is just like the building you said. I said, yeah, no, it's because it's where it happened. Okay, like I'm telling you. And we go and we look, and there's an apartment building right here. This is the apartment building I'm in. And I saw the front end of a cop car sticking out. And I knew, okay, they're here. They're here. And so I kind of frantically, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, then all of a sudden I hear, boom, boom, boom. Colorado Springs police, open up. They kick in the door. And I look, it wasn't my door. So I said, they don't know which apartment I'm in. They're kicking in every single door in the apartment on the third floor. All they knew is I was on the third floor. And so you've been in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're clearing rooms as though this was Afghanistan trying to find me. Okay. In an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, I look at the rope and this is my only option. And so I kick the screen out, throw my backpack out with all my stuff. And the only piece of furniture in the whole place was the TV and the retro recliner. Okay. That was it. And so I wrap the rope around my hand and I jump, boom, and it sticks exactly how it's supposed to. It's, wedged in the window, and I'm hanging there. Well, what I didn't know in that back parking lot, there was a surveillance van.
Oh, yeah.
That blends in with the rest of you wouldn't have known it was a cop car or whatever. It was a surveillance van. And they called it in. Someone's trying to jump out the window. I think we got our guy, and then 50 or 60 cops. They weren't going to miss me again. Come swarming from the outside. Like you couldn't see them because they were right here.
So the jig was up at that point.
The jig was up. Yeah, the gun's drawn. Get on the ground, as though I had another option. Gravity necessitated that down was the direction I was going to go, and so I unwrapped my hand, fell, and hit the ground. Thankfully, didn't break anything. They put their knee in my back, cuffed me, put me in the back of the cop car, and that was it. June 19th, 2007.
So I'm fascinated by two things in the story.
Sure.
One is you still remember the cops' names.
There's a story for why, but go ahead.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this one. Whew, it goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that lovely little village on the plains that we call Auburn. Straight across the border from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just radio. That's our radio footprint. There's a lot of y'all out there in radio land listening to Right Side. We appreciate it. There's a bunch of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show every day. Y'all can do that. Doesn't matter where you are. Just go live stream the show on places like X and YouTube and Rumble and Facebook, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, yes, all you podcasters. Thank you very much for catching it after the fact. So I'm just saying, you guys, listen, wherever you is, where you be, there we be. And we thank you for making us part of your lives and for making it worthwhile to get on this microphone every single day. You're the reason why we do it. So I got some text messages. Y'all text me 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text in your thoughts or call if you want to, because now we have our phone number back that was held hostage for like a month, but we got it back. So yeah. Jay from Hartsville checked in. He says, if WNBA strikes, they might get out of the red or at least break even. That's how they do it. You go for a period where they're not paying anybody.
There probably is going to be a strike coming up, actually.
You think, really?
Oh yeah, there's a new CBA agreement with the players union and the WNBA.
Is anyone going to know?
Well, I think I think it's next year is when that comes, and it'll be interesting to see if they actually follow through. But I think as of now, there will be a strike.
Okay. Them is Starbucks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adam from Athens says that the Mount Rushmore would have to be. Okay. There's only 4 heads on Mount Rushmore, just so you know.
I think he gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 honorable mentions. Yeah.
He's got Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kane. I forgot about Kane.
Kane's, yeah.
Undertaker, and Sting. I forgot about Sting too.
Mm.
And then he says honorable mention John Cena and The Rock.
John Cena's got to be on there because he just broke the record for most world championships. So you got to put him up. I mean, I'm biased.
How old is that guy now?
John Cena. Let's see.
I'm going to say he's 42.
48.
48.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little bit biased. I was John Cena for Halloween growing up. So
you were John Cena for Halloween.
Yeah. He was my guy. So
what do you wear to be a John Cena?
You wear the John Cena green shirt that he had at the time with his logo. He's got the iconic baseball hat. He's also got the wristbands that say "You can't see me" on it, and then he's also got the jorts. He's a jorts wearer. So
what's a jort?
Jean shorts.
Oh,
yeah. John Cena wore jean shorts his whole career. So that was the fit. I'd have to go back and find pictures.
See, in my childhood, they weren't jorts. They were just called cutoffs.
Oh, well, yeah. They
just took a pair of jeans and you cut them off.
John Cena is the only reason jorts are cool, by the way. He made them cool. So, but yep, that was the attire.
Nofre from Lexington. Nofre says folks need to quit being offended for other people. Redskins. So we know how Nofre feels about it.
I agree.
And then John from Huntsville says, Phil, JP, unless you have an unbelievable final 30 minutes, you will not be today's winner because that was definitely not my favorite on sports with JP segment.
Yeah, he's commenting. He's upset because I, 1, talked about Saban, and then 2, I said that Tiger was better than Jack Nicklaus, and he disagrees.
Okay.
Tiger is the best. Sorry.
Dave from Capshaw checking in again, sends me a meme. What you got? Is it a Babylon Bee? Let's see. Oh, he says, okay. I'm not sure what I'm looking. Oh, there it is. I get it now. He's talking about it's a meme. It's a Babylon Bee, doesn't say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's got sweatshop workers in China. It says slaves dutifully so pay us what you owe us on shirts for professional athletes. Okay. And that is Babylon B, yes. Adam from Athens checks in, says Cena can't be on Mount Rushmore because you couldn't see him.
That's good.
That's true.
That's good.
He's got the whole thing going on. Yeah. Did he invent that, by the way? Was that him?
That was all him. And it's so he not only was he you can't see me, but you couldn't see him, and he wore jorts. So he took 2 bold moves there, but it was very successful.
It's a bold plan, Cotton. Bold plan. All right, I got to tell you too. You and I were talking before the show. So Hulk Hogan being gone now, passed away. There was a lot of talk in the last couple of days about the fact that he apparently had a life-changing experience coming to know the Lord in the last year and a half, I guess.
Yeah.
But I saw, and you said you saw it too, a video of him doing a podcast. He's talking about Roddy Piper, who was one of the guys I remember back in the day. And how he and Roddy Piper, he said, we hated each other in the ring.
Yeah.
He said, we never got along. And then as we both got later in years, they began to text each other. And next thing you know, they became close friends and they texted constantly. And they were constantly staying in touch. But he would share his faith with Roddy Piper. And the story as he told it was that the Piper was interested, but he never said much about I'm making a change. Piper passed away and it hadn't been too long ago. What, a couple years?
Yeah, it was pretty recently.
He passed away, and 2 days after Piper passed away, a voice message from him showed up in Hulk Hogan's phone.
Yeah, text message.
Yeah, it's like, was it a voice
A
text?
voice text.
Yeah, and it was him saying, and he played. I heard him. I actually had to be a voice. Yeah,
Yeah, it was the voice. Yeah.
And so he played it on the thing, and it was Roddy Piper saying, "I'm just walking with Jesus, man. Just wanted to call and tell you I love you, my brother. Just walking with Jesus." And he said that was after he had died that he got the message.
Yeah, he said there's no way he would have sent that before he died. That's quite amazing. The recording gave me chills. It was pretty crazy.
That's a really crazy cool story. So anyway, love it and hoping it's all true. Dave from Capshaw again says, what has happened to Shag Nasty and Joaquin? Have you converted them to Rightside ruffianism? I don't know. I have not heard from Shag Nasty in quite a while. And I haven't. It was Kareem you're talking about. Shag Nasty and Kareem. Yeah.
Shag Nasty has not texted in since July 10th, and it was a me making fun of Pam Bondi. So that was the last text. Yeah.
Okay. John from Huntsville says Mount Rushmore of golfers be young Jack Nicklaus, middle-aged Jack Nicklaus, older Jack Nicklaus, and senior Jack Nicklaus.
Listen,
he's all about Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus is definitely number 2. However, Jack Nicklaus was also, playing against way less competition than Tiger Woods was. If Tiger Woods did not have the injuries he had, he would be well beyond Jack Nicklaus's numbers. I'll just say that.
Well, Tiger had an actual auto accident injury.
Yes,
yeah,
messed
him up.
And then he came back after that and won the Masters. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear Tiger Woods is the GOAT. That's just me, though.
The GOAT. All right, so John's all for Jack Nicklaus. John, I will tell you, though, there's a problem. Jack Nicklaus does not know how to spell Nicholas. He spells it wrong.
He does spell it wrong.
And no one's ever corrected him that. I'm not sure why he got by with that, but there's that. All right, so we got plenty on tap. We're gonna be probably hitting the road here like the rest of y'all are at go home time pretty soon. But I got to remind you guys, we do have an event coming up Monday. I will be in Madison Monday at Movement Church. If you haven't heard this already, there is a great town hall being put on at Movement Church. Moms for Liberty, our friend Emily Jones, helped put all that together along with Movement Church as a co-sponsor, because in her own words, it's a church that's not afraid to talk about politics too. And that's kind of cool. And then there's really a guy named Mark McEthron, who has his own organization too, that's very conservative, into federalism. They're going to be part of the co-host. And I will be there as a moderator. So I'm going to be there because Jared Hudson, who's the former Navy SEAL who now fights human trafficking, as well as training other SEALs and law enforcement and all that in combat skills. Anyway, Jared Hudson is running for the U.S. Senate, and he will be there that night making his own presentation, me moderating a discussion with him. But if you want to come, it's at Movement Church in Madison. Movement Church in Madison, Monday night, July 28th. Starts at 6 p.m., I believe. Is that right? Am I saying that? 6 p.m.? It's my event.
Doors open at 5:30.
Okay, doors open at 5:30. Event starts at 6, which is going to be good because I'll be rushing in from the show. So yeah, be there. No entry fee. Come as you are. Town hall, grassroots, and come enjoy a night full of ruffianism and hear what a Navy SEAL who's running for Senate has to say. And I'll be glad to meet some of y'all too. So let's do that together. All right, we're taking the last break of the day. JP, hit me some break music, man. We'll do that right now. We'll come right back and put a wrap on it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And I may get back to that story, but the other is you take your kids and you show them exactly where this happened.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a lot into, you're obviously a different person today.
Sure.
I know the guy who did those things, but I don't know the guy who did those things because you're a different person. But that being said, you're pretty transparent with, and you have 7 kids, by the way.
Yeah.
You're a prolific breeder,
yes.
but nonetheless, you've got a beautiful family, 7 kids, but you're telling them what's happened in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What's can I ask you real quick? What's their response when they hear about Dad before they knew Dad?
It's a great platform to share the gospel with your kids, right? But the older ones, it's a warning. Proverbs talks about the fool. Dad was a fool, right? I was the epitome of the fool, and you know, in Proverbs and really throughout the scriptures, it talks about a fool. And I didn't seek wise counsel. I didn't receive instruction. I didn't receive discipline. I didn't any of those things. I rejected all of it, and this is where I ended up. And so I don't think it's set. So I've got a 15-year-old, got a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old. Okay. The 15-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 9-year-old are the ones that really wrap their minds around what I'm talking about when I talk about being in prison and, you know, cops chasing me and that kind of stuff. The rest of the ones are younger, and they're just like, wow, Dad, you used to be bad, but now you're good. You know, like they don't have any, but it will eventually form like their understanding. And it's something that I want them to always know. And the thing I always point them to is like, one, don't be the fool, receive instruction, receive wise counsel, obey God and obey your parents. But also life isn't perfect. And if you stray, you can never stray so far that God can't get you. Right. And if God saved me, he can save anybody. And that's not cliche. It's literally, let me tell you about something. But again, specifically my 15-year-old, I drive him all around Colorado Springs. There's not a corner I didn't commit a felony in that city. Okay. And I drive him and I'm like, I did this here. I did this here. I did this here. I did this here. Like, this is who I was. You need to know and understand that. Right. And so
Proverbs 19, raise up a child the way they should go.
Yep.
When they get old, they won't depart from it.
Yep.
All right, brother. So you, the jig was up. They got you. The officers whose names you still recall were a part of the task force that brought you in, and you're staring at 6 felonies prior before you even got to this point, and now you've got this stack of felonies, and you're looking at 384 years potentially.
Sure.
So you're looking at life in prison at that point.
Correct. Yeah.
But you negotiated.
Yeah.
Did you negotiate for yourself, or did your lawyer do a good job?
It's a mix, but there's a bunch between that. But yeah, it gets into mediation. But there was 9 months between then, and in those 9 months, so they take me to county jail. I'm facing 384 years in prison. At least that's how my public defender described it, because how it works, and the numbers are shaky in my head, but I have to do the math. But either way, each charge that I was charged with gets doubled because I was on probation and on bond, so they can double it, so they enhance it.
Yeah.
And then they times it. They can times it by 4 because it's the habitual criminal.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can break it all down with math or whatever, but the habitual criminal. So if you have 3 felonies, they call that. I'm not going to say what they call it. It's the B word, the little B word. And if it's 4 or more, you get they quadruple your sentence, and they call that the big B word. Okay, habitual. Anyway, so I was at 6, so I'm times 4, and then so they stack. And then they times it by 4, and then that's where that comes from.
This is state, not federal, right?
State, Colorado State. Yep, Colorado State prison.
It didn't wind up being 384 years, but you still got a pretty stiff sentence.
Got a pretty stiff sentence, and you know, the transformation really began in county jail. So I was in county jail for 9 months, basically holding out, and that's part of your negotiations in county jail. I was like, well, I'll just sit here until you bring me a deal that I want, right? And you know, they'll only do that for so long, but. It is, you know, some people just want to get in there and they plea and they go to prison, you know, but I was going to, you know, bide my time or whatever. Well, I'm now in county jail thinking I'm going to go do the rest of my life in prison. That's how I'm seeing this. And so I'm in there thinking I have to create this reputation of being a bad dude. So when I get to prison, people won't mess with me. And so I do. And I'm hanging out with all the wrong people in there. I catch one assault case. They put me in the hole. Then send me to another unit. I'm there for a little bit. They bring in another guy that had told on one of my friends. And I had to go beat him up really, really bad. Caught another assault case. So I caught 2 assault cases in county jail. So on top of all my other stuff, I caught 2.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Clay from Madison says Jack Nicklaus played with lesser technology. Tiger Woods had better clubs and better balls. It's like LeBron versus Jordan. Argument without Jordan, no LeBron.
Well, if you want to ask me LeBron Jordan, I probably have an opinion you wouldn't like either. But okay, I understand.
John from Huntsville says, you guys tripped me. I did not misspell Jack Nicholas.
No, we're saying Jack Nicholas misspells
Yes,
Nicholas.
Jack Nicholas does. Yes. It's there you go. John from Minor says Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, and Roddy Piper. That's his Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
I mean, you can't argue with that one. It is an old timer Mount Rushmore.
It's good. That's a good crew. Mark from Red Bay says, good evening, Phil. Just got to Nashville by way of Bucky's, visiting my daughter and her family for her birthday today and mine tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Well, happy birthday to all of y'all. Give them some applause. Happy birthday, Mark from Red Bay, and your daughter. Outstanding. Have a great time, my friend. And by the way, glad you went to Bucky's. And then Jason from Huntsville says something that I can't. He's got collectibles.
Saying Roddy Piper as a G.I. Joe figure. You should see how much it sells for on eBay. It's amazing.
Oh, wow. It does sell for a lot. And then here's the grades. Then I'll go to the phones. Phil and JP, says John from Huntsville. Phil and JP both get a B-.
Wow.
Which means today winners without a doubt. Obviously, Erica Thomas with a perfect A++. Congratulations. Well, she deserved it.
Yes, she did.
She did deserve it.
I don't think we deserve to be minus.
We did not deserve to be minus. We deserve more than that. Just saying. We feel very entitled. Pay us what we owe.
Pay us what you owe.
Pay us what we deserve. That's right. Let me go to the phones because I do believe that Jeff Rowe from Indiana is on the line. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I sure hope John never starts handing out dust caps, Sends you in a corner.
I know. Put me on timeout.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about this stuff, man? I spent a lot of time today talking about stuff with kids and all that stuff in Bibb County, and then all the stuff with losing 300,000 kids by the Biden administration. You got any thoughts on all that?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I mean, there's got to be a way of holding somebody like Mayorkas accountable for some of this stuff.
You would think.
Because, you can't just let people just destroy hundreds of thousands of lives, and maybe possibly millions of people, just because they got a political, axe to grind and wants to get these people in to vote for them. And just anything goes. I'll let the kids in. We'll just do anything. And you got some terrorists coming in. Oh, we don't care as long as they vote Democrat. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, it really is. And it just, you look at it and go, number one, it was reckless. And number two, it was just like this callous disregard for life. I mean, it's like they could care less.
Yeah. I mean, they'll do a welfare check on a kid and everything if you just, if you don't even strap him in with a seatbelt, nowadays. Let alone, here we are, these kids getting sex trafficked and everything else with 2-year-olds. Yeah. I mean, it truly is a mental disease, a mental illness that, people have no empathy for the fellow human beings. Because that's why I say you look at all the prisons and everything, that's who's in prison, because without laws, I couldn't do you wrong. Even if it did, because I have a conscience and I have, sympathy for my fellow man. But these people here have absolutely no sympathy for anyone.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Well, they don't. And the Bibb County thing, I don't know which one you're talking about. Are you talking about Bibb County, or are you talking about the 300,000 kids missing? But the Bibb County, Alabama thing with the kids that were, freed from this sex, dungeon, this torture dungeon they had. I'm hoping those people get convicted and then fried soon thereafter.
Yeah, and the fact that they won't release if it was an illegal alien or not tells me all I need to know.
Yeah, well,
because you wouldn't withhold it if it wasn't.
What's interesting about that is this is also a friendly venue. We're not at all a sanctuary state. That's not a sanctuary county. That's a red meat county right there. And they were in the 4th congressional district, which I think they are, which is the most Trump pro rata share of vote of any congressional district in the whole U.S. So it's about as red as it gets. I cannot imagine that county would be trying to hide something like this, but why they're not answering it, I don't know.
Yeah. And how many local people are wrapped up in this mess? Because, they wouldn't just telling these kids to just a few people. I mean, once the word got out and everything, I'm sure that all the pedophiles and everything else come out of the woodwork. So I just wonder how big a band, how many people will be involved in this thing.
I don't know, but if there was anybody who had a whiff of involvement, I say drag them in. Just drag them all in, and waste no time doing it.
Yeah, you've got if you don't start nipping things in the bud like this and give them the maximum, it's just going to keep happening. You know, of course, a lot of people really don't care. I mean, like I say, when you don't have any empathy, you don't care what happens to you or somebody else. So it'll still happen, but at least we need to, for our benefit and the victims' benefit, we need to know that they've been punished.
Absolutely. Hey, let me lighten the mood on the last moment here before you leave. Let's switch gears. JP just did the sports segment a minute ago. What do you think? Should the Washington Redskins take their old name back or not?
Well, certainly they should take it back. I'm tired of this woke stuff, man. It's just what other names? Think of all the other names that we've changed, and over the years and stuff. Everything has to be changed, and then it still has the same meaning, or still people still call it that. So I don't know. I hate wokeism.
We know what they ought to do. They ought to do like, so the Department of Defense has been renaming the posts back to their original names, like, Rucker and Benning and Hood. And they've been just finding other people named Rucker and Benning and Hood and naming the post after them. And so the libs don't know what to do with that because it's no longer, they can't use the racist Confederate stuff. So here's what we do. We find some guy, I don't know, like of Polish descent named Redskine, and just name them the Washington Redskins in honor of this guy from Poland named Redskine and be done with it.
You may be onto something. You may be onto something.
Yeah,
you heard it first on Rightside Radio. There's some Polish dude named Redskine who's going to wind up having his own team.
Well, I'm sure that they'll have something against him too, for whatever reason. He's probably anti-Nazi or anti-whatever. So
no doubt. All right, brother, where are you at on the road right now?
I'm coming into Nashville, and believe it or not, I'm moving along really good.
Well, good. All right. Well, you have a great weekend, and we'll get you back on again first of the week. All right.
All right, Phil. You all have a good weekend.
All right, man. See ya. What you got, man? We got Mark from Huntsville says, I'm sorry. We already took care of that. Very much. Thank you very much. That was an inside forward, JP. All right, listen, I'm loving the fact that we got our phone lines back, by the way, because the 833-687-4448, which is 833-68 right. We actually chose that number on purpose. That is our number. And now we have it back. It feels complete. Like we've come full circle, JP.
Yes, it does.
I feel like I have my shoes on again. It's just good. All right, listen. Again, I will be doing the show from Huntsville on Monday, and then thereafter going to the town hall meeting at Movement Church in Madison. Doors open at 5:30, no charge, and then come on to the event. It kicks off at 6 is the actual event. U.S. Navy SEAL Jared Hudson, who's now running for Senate here in Alabama. I'm hosting a town hall with him along with Moms for Liberty and Mark McEtherin's Federalist guys. And we'll have a great time. Come join us. Love to have you there. Love to meet some ruffians. So, yes, Madison, 6 p.m., Movement Church. In the meantime, have an amazing weekend. And don't forget, there's way, way, way more of us than there are of them. And, oh, by the way, God is still on his throne. And, yeah, stay in the fight. We'll see you Monday.